Welcome in, one and all, and happy Thursday. We've got another great day of the PPL for you here today. I'm Dolson, and joining me on the desk to start off the day is none other than Evan Rain Day Rayner. Evan, how you feeling this morning?
I'm feeling good, baby.
That was a good intro. We're off to a hot start.
Evan Rain Day Rayner.
Don't forget it.
Don't get it mistaken.
Don't you get it mistaken. We've got a great setup of games today, though, and I think the one I'm most excited for, we can chat about the second one as well, but this first one's going to be great. NVVP.
Yeah.
VP, of course, coming out on top of the last one, but
It's going to be awesome.
it's going to be a fun one.
It's going to be awesome, Dave. It's two heavyweights right now, two teams that are, in that kind of middleweight class as their performance, but heavyweight as far as their potential. They want to get to the top. These two teams are fighting for the same thing, and only one can have it. That's what's exciting about today in this first set. I think this might be one of the best sets we've seen in the PPL. Hopefully one of the best sets this week, too.
Well, the writing is definitely on the wall for a set that maybe goes a little bit longer if these two teams play at their highest potential. And then, of course, the second matchup of the day, maybe slightly different. If we look at the standings here, you'll see why, because NIP, well, they're at the very top with a 30-map differential, 9-0. They're going against the Renegades today down at the bottom. They're 1-8. I mean, I think all signs would point if NIP play their game today,
right,
I think regardless of how well the Renegades are able to play, if NIP play the way they have been, they'll come out on top of this one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is a huge one. Look at those Team Envy, though, at Virtus.Pro. If Virtus.Pro win, they go 6-3. Envy go 5-5. Huge difference there. And if Envy win, they go 6-4, and they actually put Virtus.Pro into 5-4. So still tied as far as the amount of losses. Virtus.Pro, if they keep winning, because Envy lost a couple of early games. But, man, if Virtus.Pro win, they really shift gears on what Envy have done, and they put themselves in a clear third right now. That would be a very, very monumental thing for them to do.
I mean, there's that big middle of the pack, 3 through 6, where we're all within a couple of wins of one another.
Losses
and I mean,
around,
and that's where you're thinking, all right, we're going to go to MSI most likely, given that there's only 4 or 5 weeks left prior to MSI. But 1 or 2 wins in there makes a difference as far as seeding goes. And, that's the difference between having to play NIP one round and then having to play, somebody on the other end one round. So these matches are definitely important for sort of differentiating. But let's look back at the first matchup of the day. And
definitely.
As we saw, according to the standings, these two teams are very close to one another. And it's sort of going to be tough to, I think, really predict the way it goes down. Of course, looking at the Virtus.Pro roster, Dosips, Vex, Pule, Hecate, and Fashekla. I want to kind of dive into Pule, though, and what he means to this team.
Well, he's an aggressive off-tank, and he comes from a very winning history in Latin America, also playing with Nocturnes. They made that incredible run in the semifinals, but let's not talk just about that. Let's talk about their continued better performance at LAN each and every time they showed up, from underdogs to favorites in most people's accounts. Pule was not intended to be on this team. It was supposed to be Sephi Cloud, but I think somewhere along the lines, things started to show up clearly that this was the guy that needed to play. And it's not just him as a player, which is fantastic. It's his synergy with Hecate and how the frontline damage duo sometimes pairs so well. You have to have people in synergy. He's a great barrack, wonderful con. He plays all the good aggressive off tanks, and he also can get onto a point tank if he needs to. But again, the comfortability, not only having a native Latin American and Spanish speaker on this squad as well to mix with the guys, I just think he brings so much to the table.
And I think what he probably was going to hope for coming into this split, sort of knowing that the whole Sephi Cloud situation was sort of up in the air, was make it a hard decision for the rest of the team. If I can come in, put my best foot forward, and make it a difficult decision for Virtus.Pro whether to bring him back in, keep me around, and he's done just that. I mean, we don't have the inside knowledge on where that situation stands necessarily, but if nothing else, he's made a statement and shows why he should still be on this roster. Hecate, of course, tried and true. One kind of interesting thing is some of the changes we'll see coming through today, of course, playing on the updated patch, and there's been some changes to Leon, and that's why I bring it up in the Hecate conversation, because Leon is one of his favorite champions. What are you thinking, not only about Hecate, but just sort of maybe where Leon will stand today?
Well, I think what's interesting is that Leon typically is not played around her presence. for entire history of Leon, she was played around death and taxes. She had precision earlier on when you could slide, get all your ammo back, and keep that going. Those things changed. Imminence became the new dog heading into this season after January. People had to learn how to really hit that shot consistently, and they did. But I think that this style of Leon, just the hit, that's what Hecate kind of made his name on. I think precision will do him even better. I expect him to play better today. The Amani change, I've noticed, is not necessarily impactful yet. A lot of people have just been able to work around the Frostbomb. It's a huge AoE blast. Sometimes you don't need it to be that fast, and sometimes you just can afford to put a couple of extra points to get the speed back to a relatively decent position. It's not about having the fastest Frostbomb in the world. It's about making sure you can hit it, and that doesn't necessarily mean that she got anything too detrimental to her abilities.
Well, I'm really excited to see how some of those changes come into fruition today. Of course, new map coming out as well. Bazaar is now in this patch. We could see that a couple times today. It's going to be sort of interesting, I think, to see how these teams pick up on the new things. Of course, you've only really had, I guess, a week or two now, maybe some of the players getting in on play tests of the new map.
Well,
but all of this considered, there's not too much practice time, is there?
You know, that's a bit of an interesting one because yes and no. This was a test map, and Paladins does a great thing where they offer test maps for people to play, and we've been playing that since early January. However, it did go away, and no one knows when it's coming back until it shows up as a map. So once that happened, people said, we get it, and also now they've had a couple of weeks, like you mentioned, to actually scrim on it, but it's a map players should be familiar with at the very least.
Well, a guy who will definitely have gotten the team prepared and sort of privy to some of these new changes is their head coach, Spuds. He looks a little different, but he's still standing by for an interview.
All right, well, we're here, and, I have one question I think that's going to start the day off. If we go back a week, go back 2 weeks, you look completely different. What inspired the shave that comes through for today?
Just simply Atlanta is hot. So I was preparing to come back. I was checking the weather, and it just wasn't going to work out. I just didn't want to. It's too much, man. It's too much.
That you know what? That's a good enough reason. So I guess we can go into this set. This is going to be one that I think last time you guys were able to come out 4-2 over Envy. And this is going to be a pretty big one. I think even Dosups has said, we've been talking to you guys for the last couple of days, that this is a stronger Envy than last time. What do you kind of expect to see out of them today?
Honestly, I just expect them to be a lot more confident in what they were last time. Hopefully we don't go down 2-0 again. That would be really nice. Have to win 4 straight. But I just expect much more confident team.
And then the last thing really coming into today is the fact that there's been a big patch that came through, a couple of significant changes to significant champions that have been in the meta. Do you think that's going to be shaking things up, or draft's going to be drastically different than what we're used to? Or do you think we're going to be seeing kind of something similar to the last few weeks?
There's definitely going to be a couple things. Cardio Victor, really, really good. But honestly, it's going to be a little bit of the same, maybe 1 or 2 champs.
Awesome. Well, it sounds good here in the Virtus.Pro booth. Let's go ahead and kick it back to the desk and get set up for Envy.
Appreciate it, Gore, and I like the reasoning behind the beard shave. It's hot in Atlanta.
Too hot.
And it is too
Practical type dude.
And it probably keeps the mind a little clearer when you're able to not just walk to your car and feeling like you're just sweating like crazy.
In the 7 circles of hell.
Right, in the 7 circles of hell. I'm glad you dove in there because I didn't want to fully describe it, but that's definitely the way it works.
There it is.
Let's look over at the side of Envy, though. And the first guy I want to look at, the one who sort of matches up toe-to-toe with Pule that we talked about on Virtus.Pro side, is Rubu.
Yeah.
And he's had, I would say, a good start to his campaign here. I mean, I think in general, everyone on Envy has had a good start, per se. I think they probably started out maybe a little slower than they were hoping, had some big ups, but had some big downs as well.
Yeah.
Is Rubu a guy similar to Pule that they'll be leaning on?
Listen, I want to first comment on that slow start, and I think that you have to keep everything in a holistic point of view. You may not be feeling your fittest, you may not be looking your best, but if you're 3 years in a fitness journey and you look at what happened when you started, it could be you're so much better than where you were.
Right.
These guys are coming off of a world championship. This guy's coming off the MVP. There's literally no higher thing you could do before coming into this season. So anything he does is down if he doesn't win every game and get pentakills, like anything. So they have to have this holistic perspective.
You're right.
You look back far enough, man, where they've come, is so big, and Puleoli has had a lot of this underdog mentality his entire career. Rubu has as well, but he did reach the top. So now he's got to readjust. He says, we did this amazing thing. I'm really grateful for that journey. We're on a new journey now. And I think that he's done a good job, definitely on the ruckus, and last week in particular, looking really sharp. If he keeps this up, I think Envy are going to have no problem.
And, of course, we were able to sit down with Random Noob the other day, actually yesterday, and sort of talk to him. And he kind of had a good perspective on where the team is at, in that very similarly, I think, to what you just said. They're really taking it day by day. They're saying, all right, we come off World Championships. Some other teams, NIP, Na'Vi, namely, have really adapted, really come firing out of the gates. But at the end of the day, we're still playing pretty good Paladins when it really comes down to it. We're in third place right now. Don't forget, I mean, technically, according to win-loss plus-minus, they're playing like a third-place team. They are the third-place team right now. Random Noob has had some huge pop-off moments this split so far.
He has.
And I hope to see some more of the same today.
To me, he's very instrumental to this team in many ways. I found that when Rock Monkey is going off, so does Random Noob. I found that when Rock Monkey's having an average day, Random Noob has a little bit of trouble. I don't know why that is. Maybe they create space for each other. Maybe it's a mental thing, and that just means everyone on Envy's a little bit off, and you can tell. I think what is rare is to see Random Noob take over a game by himself and Rock Monkey be absolutely kind of like second tier, not really relevant.
True.
This split. Last split, that happened quite often. I think his Eevee was probably the most incredible Eevee on display in a finals tournament that we've ever seen, and that's what won them the World Championship, frankly, the ability to flex into that role. However, here, I'm just not sure if there's the consistency in him being able to carry the load right now. It's so much more of a team effort for Envy, and last week they looked like they handled that, so I'm curious to see what they come in with this week and what they're prepared for.
I think this is a very important week for them, just showing how they've adapted and where they currently stand, because they've had a little time off. We're excited to see where they stand coming into this week. Of course, another key team player on their team is their head coach, and Gore's standing by with Meta for an interview.
Well, now we're over here with Meta Pusher, and I'm going to go through probably the same sequence of questions I just asked Spuds. The first one, it doesn't actually relate to you as much, but Spuds is shaved, and I want to know, has the intimidation factor kind of gone down because of that? Are you feeling like maybe more on par with Virtus.Pro now?
Yeah, definitely a little bit less intimidating, but the surprise factor when we came out to do map bans and there was just nothing there, I was like, who is this handsome man walking out to ban maps against me?
We actually had a moment, I think it was either yesterday or 2 days ago, did not recognize them. We're very confused. It was only the fact that they were scrimming that we were like, well, it kind of has to be the coach at that point. But you're coming into this. Last time you two met, it was week 3, so it was kind of the Envy that hadn't found their full form just yet. And it was a 4-2 for Virtus.Pro. You guys have been on the upswing as of late. How are you feeling about the set today?
We're feeling pretty good. Yeah, week 3 was just a total mess for us. We won the first 2 maps in that set, and then we lost 8 straight over the next 2 days. So definitely just complete and utter meltdown, and we're definitely hoping that doesn't happen today. We put in a lot of practice, and we're ready to show that we're not that same team from week 3.
Well, I'm excited to see it. I know we're already having some interesting things with the new update for this week. So let's go ahead and kick it back to the desk as we get this set started.
Appreciate it, fellas. And again, I think echoing some statements that we had said, like week 3 was a meltdown for these guys. And those are words from Meta Pusher, and I think we all saw it. They lost 8 straight points. They were up 2-0, lost 4-2 then at the end of the day to Virtus.Pro, and then another 4-0 the next day. And I think they've bounced back since then, and this is an NV team that has improved. But today, like I said prior to that interview, today is really a gauge, I think, for where they stand.
It is.
Speaking of new maps, Evan, we're going to get a look at
Boom,
Bazaar.
baby.
First set, first map. I mean, what are your thoughts on Bazaar? Does it loan itself to any interesting champions, any interesting play styles in your eyes?
Well, first of all, it's reminding me of Aladdin right now, because a lot of Aladdin jumping in the Bazaar.
It's a whole new world.
And we're going to leave it at that.
It's a whole new world.
And you should definitely go see that. But excited to see the new map. Again, this is not a new map as far as players knowing what the map is.
True. As far as
played it a bunch. I've played this map more than I ever need to play this map. I mean, it was the only map in test queue for a long, long time during a very long patch. So they're familiar. However, with Atlas, not really. With Amani, not really. I mean, the last few weeks, they've got to figure it out. Notably, the bans here getting off to a very familiar start. Genos banned away, Envy guaranteeing that they get the con, and VP do not have as many power picks available themselves. Already a very good start for Envy. I'm curious as to what VP have up their sleeves here.
Well, it's a very interesting map. If you really, I mean, there's sort of the point, which is kind of down in a pit almost in a way, some walls surrounding it for a little extra cover, but then there's the high ground sort of balconies on either side of it. So there's a definitive high ground versus low ground advantage on a map like this. At least off the bat, first 3 picks in. Nothing stands out as far as a team prioritizing something new.
Everything stands out to me,
Everything
Dave.
is crazy. And Nara and Damba, I guess that's somewhat interesting for a 1-2 pick. Of course, Ash still on the board. And then Barrick, he has some, I would say, buffs in this patch as well. I'm wondering where he'll maybe land in some of these. Maeve has started to come through as a new high-priority flanker as well.
Envy really
Welcome
doing
to
their
the
research
new
around
streets, kitten.
NIP and Na'Vi and what's worked. 2 aggressive tanks here. And you have to realize
Come
that
on, let's
we also
fight.
are going into this first time seeing competitive drafts on this map. It's not something that we know exactly where people are prioritizing. You could tell VP are prioritizing the point, which is square, which is bigger than other points on other Paladins maps. So the Damba and Nara is going to be very helpful in holding down that objective. There's a big pillar she can hide behind. It's going to be very hard to kill her. They need some type of dive. I think that's why they grabbed the Maeve. And the Eevee here is very important too. It's a pick that is really, really good for Fasheko. It's a home base for Random Noob. He got it nearly every game last set they played last week. And the Cassie here, it's a fantastic takeaway from Rock Monkey.
I think that's a definitive 2-prong pick there on the side of Virtus.Pro. Not only is Cassie a good pick for Hecate on that side, but you also take it away from Rock Monkey. Very good 2-prong pick in my eyes. And then, of course, you look at the state of the healers. If Genos is out, normally Damba is the next one to go to, and then it's sort of a toss-up between Ying, in this case, looking like maybe a Furia, and sometimes Saris jumps her way in there as well.
The next time you see my
It
banners,
is going to be the Leon, so
run.
maybe some interesting Leon play with the way the champion has been changed.
Be
And
humble,
Furia is going to round
mortal.
out the Envy lineup here.
They have a very good composition against this Eevee. I was wondering if the Barrack was going to come through. I thought it would come through earlier, but it's 2 different ideologies here going against one another. It's the Damba with Anara, best sustain in the game, plus the Barrack, the other best point tank, into an Ashe and a Khan, which are 2 aggressive tanks. They're going to look to take space. They have the Maeve who's going to be in the back line, and so much coverage with the cleave from Leon, and of course the healing from Furia. Fury got a buff. She's going to be able to heal 300% farther, which is basically anywhere on this map, so she'll have more impact than she normally would have. This is going to be a really interesting set.
When we talk about being able to stand on the point on a map like this, getting one of the highest health per second, if not the highest health per second heals on you constantly from a further range, it could be interesting. It's set number 1. It's Bizarre. Let's send it down to your casters to get it started.
Thank you, gentlemen. And Gore, we get to cast the first Bizarre game. I'm very excited for this.
This one, I'm even more excited because based on the way the teams were describing the map picks, the map draft, I guess, for it, Envy were like scrambling for it. Like they were so excited to be able to get this. Like almost immediately, they were like, "All right, we're going to Bizarre." So I'm excited to see what they have on it. And you can see in their draft, I feel like they've gone a little more aggressive. The Maeve being able to come through. I think this is something that's going to control the sides around this point a little more. And this map's just so beautiful.
Well, as you can see there, slightly in the middle of this map, I believe Bizarre does now dethrone Ascension Peak as the largest capture point in Paladins. Has that gigantic statue kind of in the middle, but of that entire sort of square around said statue is all capturable zone.
And this is actually where I think we're going to see the Barrack and Nara come into play more than anything. If you notice the way the entrance to the point is, obviously when you're on the high ground, you can kind of pelt damage into that, but every entrance to it is going to be wallable, it's going to be shieldable, like you can kind of control the ebb and flow around this. And like you said, with that nice big statue, theoretically, you can stand there. So for Virtus.Pro, they might have more point control. The question is whether or not like their healing's going to be able to back them up, or if maybe the high ground's going to kind of give away that objective for them.
I like the ability for Nara to just kind of wall herself in a corner. I feel like you might be able to like Tremors Nara on this map if it really comes to that. Fishy does manage to grab first blood for Virtus.Pro, as they do also grab themselves a lead on the capture percentage. Hecate finds a Random Noob. Fishy blinks in, blinks out, soars in fact. Try and find some more damage, buy some space, and Doceps will not let this go for free. He's going to get his turret set up and try and dig in and hold Envy back for as long as possible.
And this is pretty much the way you need to zone them out. I mean, they are so far away from the objective. That 96% is going to turn into 100 really fast, and you can see just a couple body blocks and a little bit of control. pretty much just locked Envy out the
Look
entire
at this.
time.
Look at this Ice Storm locking people down for Hecate, plugging away across the map. Fishy finds 2. Fishy finds 3, swimming around on Bazaar, the first map of this best-of-7 set between Team Envy and Virtus.Pro, looking very good for the boys in orange and black.
And you can kind of see Fishy did look through one of the gates there, and as you saw, didn't open for him. That's one of the things about this map. If you haven't played on it yet,
Evie
the gates
doesn't care.
are going to be team-sided. So if it's your team's base, you can be able to walk through. Of course, if you're someone like Evie, you just kind of go over the wall. You don't care too much about it, and that's kind of where Fishy's playing it. This was also, from my experience, one of the toughest pushes that I've experienced in the game, just because once you get around kind of the corner, it's hard to see on random news perspective, but when you're coming around the corner where Virtus.Pro are right here, it kind of just opens up to the base.
VP struggling to break this corner. This Team Envy composition, I think, does a little bit better from that closer range, especially these 2 frontliners, the Ashe and the Khan, holding this corner against Inara very, very effectively.
I mean, already making, I want to say, huge strides in just a minute and a half to get to where they are.
To be fair, I think, obviously it's the first game, but I think that's probably where the payload's gonna make it.
That's pretty much where it stops.
That's like your Splitstone. That's that corner on Splitstone Quarry where they're gonna hold you.
Yeah, and it's this hallway too, depending on the ults that are available, whether or not they're willing to dump them, but this hallway into that corner is, I would argue, the most team deathmatchy portion of a map that I've ever experienced. Like, it becomes a brawl in
Well,
that
look
corner.
at this. Here's the part of the problem. It's so easy to just flank through that hallway, the gate, collapse, choke out, whatever the word you want to use is. That's what's happening to Virtus.Pro at the moment. Team Envy are winning this fight. You mentioned ultimates. Enlightenment was used extremely early on in this fight to kill Fasheko, Seismic Crash, Dread Serpent, all resources that we saw that were spent, and we're winding down now in our first round at just 20 seconds on the clock.
In fact, as of right now, you're looking at big ultimates coming into the next round, or potentially to try and keep this one going. Virtus.Pro really only have the Dome Shield to try and solidify this push to continue going in. They've used everything else in this fight, and they're trying to keep it pushing. They do get it going a little further, and they drop the Dome Shield, so they want this 2-0.
This has to be a kill for Fasheko over here, almost connecting there. I noticed the Furia Beam did miss onto the front line. It's going to be critical. Here's the End Flame, though. Movement speed, extra damage for everyone on Team Envy. Fishy falling lower and lower. Doesn't have any cooldowns up just yet. Needs a couple of seconds, but Tolki finds 2. Hecate and Vex are already dead. Fishy wormholes into a tough spot. Tolki is just going to take down everyone in this fight. The Khan, the muscle behind the Team Envy fight when it mattered most, and Envy can hold on here for a 1-1 tie.
Now this ends up working out for both teams because the fight just goes on so long. At the very end, they manage to grab up the last little bit of charge they need. Not every ult being available, but they're going to be able to come into this next round feeling confident about it. But the big thing for Envy is getting to the objective at all. That's like the last one was, what, 100-3. It was not very much in there. It was very much not in their favor, I guess is the better way to word it. Virtus.Pro went in, they moved in, they set up, and they just never left. And it feels like Envy are going to need maybe just say the Inflame from the Furia to kind of keep them going, but they had to use that for the defense. So they're going to have to come into this a little stronger, I think, to find the control they were looking for.
Well, let's take a quick peek at the talents. I wanted to double check that this was actually Solar Blessing Fury, and it's not. It's back to Cherish. All right, you know, credit to Mr. Hayes. I said that a Fury Beam missed, but I just assumed that it was Solar Blessing, and it was not Cherish. So he didn't miss it because it's not possible. That's not the way Pyre Strike is going to function with this talent core.
This is going to be all damage, stuns, exactly what he's kind of been using it for. Setup for his team to try and find it. Unfortunately, the setup's on the side of Virtus.Pro. Another Ice Storm comes through, and while Tolki does get the grab, it's not enough to lock Fasheko down for everyone.
2 more, 3 now in favor of Virtus.Pro. 3 for 1. Goes the way of this team fight. No cooldowns here. Pule confident, though. He never wavered, never missed a shot. Wins that 1v1 with the backline support from Team Envy. Back in control, Gormizer, 75% to just a paltry 6 here. Single digits might be the way that this point comes to a close. You can see the touch here from Random Noob. He pops the Midnight. Nobody can see him on his approach, so he will at least get his team overtime.
I mean, they're able to get in. They're able to get these overtimes. They're able to at least touch down. But, I mean, it feels like Envy have a very solid, I might even roll that back to a pretty decent defense. Like, nothing solid. It's not going to stop Virtus.Pro in their tracks, but it was able to find the one defense that's happened so far. But their point fight is just nowhere near what Virtus.Pro has. And I think when it comes down to it, it was kind of mentioned on the desk, but if you look at the front lines, Virtus.Pro have the two that are going to control probably most of the objective all of the time in their point tanks with a Maldamba behind them.
Yeah.
And then Fishy's very comfortable on an Eevee. Hikate's very comfortable on a Cassie right now. And Leon's had enough changes to her that you have to kind of question whether or not that matchup is going to be leaning just generically towards Virtus.Pro, let alone with how so far Envy have been able to perform.
Virtus.Pro fighting confidently into the Inflamed Envy. Inflame is going to expire now, 140 on the clock. Same corner being held for the boys in black and blue. Fishy poking his head up over the top, but you can't shoot through that gate unless it's, of course, down. Pule assassinates Rubu and disengages cleanly. This is the pick. This is the momentum that Virtus.Pro never had in the first round. They're barreling towards conversion. Rock Monkey has to jump down onto the payload just to try and stall. He has Enlightenment, but he's not even going to pop it. I think Envy, no, this one got out of control before they were able to realize it. They just have to let it go.
And this is that portion in a fight and in a map where typically I would come through and be like, okay, now comeback mechanic, Envy, they're going to be able to come back, but they've been able to get 12% over 2 points. That's even with a comeback mechanic, maybe 14, maybe going to go up to, or maybe 24, maybe 27% total on a comeback mechanic point. Like, they just have to change their fight.
They got 9%. You could multiply that number by 10 and it's
still not enough.
enough. Team Envy are struggling at the moment. I mean, this is no Timber Mill, but these are some long lines of sight on the point fight here. You can see, look at how open the bazaar, the real marketplace, the flea market, if you will, right down there in the mid. That's where I think Team Envy need to win this fight. They have Maeve, they have Leon. I'm really surprised that they're kind of getting shut out in the way they've been.
Well, right now, high ground aggression is going to be coming out for them. And I think this is something they haven't been able to do as strongly in the last couple of rounds. And it has been, get rid of this Barrack, push him away. Of course, it doesn't seem like it's mattering. The kills are still coming up red.
Random Noob goes down. A nice, honestly, combined effort. Barrack got a tag in there. Inara got some damage. I'm sure Fasheko landed a shot or two. Tolki gets walled off and slain. Early prioritization of Inara in the draft seems to be paying off for Virtus.Pro.
I can go ahead and tell you this is not how I expected this map to go, and this is not how I expected this set to start. It's going to be coming up to, once again, whether or not Random Noob can just get in to get a touch for overtime, because it's 96-0.
Wow, Fasheko finds 2 for 1 in favor of Virtus.Pro. X for 1 has been really the story in favor of Virtus.Pro. I feel like the majority of this game. Tolki falls potentially for the last time here. Mr. Hayes dead as well. I mean, amped up, ready to go. Virtus.Pro feeling good. Fishy gets his Eevee. Dosups gets the Inara. Pule gets the Barrack. And I got to say, damage charts are one thing, but Pule I thought was really, really close to Fasheko.
Yeah.
Having a pretty damn good impact. But then so was Inara. I don't really know where the draft went wrong for Envy. It feels like they had some damn strong picks as well.
I honestly can only think of the fact that Barrack and Inara are very good at holding wherever they're standing, and that seems to be pretty much all they did. Inara goes to the point, just stay alive there. Barrack goes up there with the flank, and it's just like, as long as you hold a middle area, the flank has somewhere to retreat to, somewhere that's safe where you can put a shield up and keep them going so they can retreat. And I feel like that just bought them enough room and enough time.
Well, we've got our one little valuable data point on Bazaar. Hopefully we can
It can be a 4-1.
Yeah, we can all start to learn a little bit more about this awesome brand new map in the realm. Let's get it back to the desk and hear what they thought about game number 1.
Appreciate it, fellas. Yeah, so the one kernel of information on Bazaar right now.
Nugget of info.
And I know that we kind of zoned in on the Inara prioritization in that case and how well the pick worked out. I mean, she was basically able to stand on the point, as you would expect Inara to do, granted. But it worked out so well on this map specifically.
Yeah.
And I mean, 4-1 I think is generous. That easily could have been a 4-0.
Yeah, you have to look at a few things that make this put up. There's so many dynamics to this map. It'll be great to hopefully see it throughout the day. That was Envy's pick. So Virtus.Pro just dominated Envy on their own pick, which also gives you a little bit of question marks above your head. What I think was so huge is, you're right, the Inara, we had talked about that, Pule Ule. This is a map built around sustaining that point. There was no way the Ashe and Tolki with that Furia, too many beams missed, too many opportunities missed, too much pressure on them to sustain against those two. But the blaster, the height, the movement, Fasheko showed what the Eevee can do. A 1-7 for Random Noob, that's not going to get it done. 3-5 for Rock, that's not going to get it done. A Wormjet Strogos, actually, I think is a great pick on this map.
It could be, yeah.
I think Eevee as well mirrors what that can do, which is the mobility, the kind of aerial awareness of where people are. You can isolate fights and then get back to safety pretty quickly. A lot of walls to hide behind for these very very fast and mobile characters.
And that's what Fasheko was. I mean, just the aerial presence in that one was enough, I think, to tilt the scales. Of course, Dosup's getting on the Inara. 6-3-11.
Right.
I mean, it's one thing to have the most objective time in the game and helping your team win in that facet.
Right.
But also being aggressive, playing offensively. 7 KDA, 61,000 damage. I mean, that's nothing to scoff at. And, I mean, I sort of mentioned how Inara was able just to stand on the point. Dosup's was able just to chill out. But you see here, kind of weaving his way in and out of the lines of sight here, getting in, getting a touch on the point, helping out, getting a kill. And that's a huge factor, I think, in this win.
Well, what he did, he closed off mid, and then he said, you're coming through right or left. And it made it very difficult for champions like Khan and even Furia. Nobody had upwards mobility to get up and over. That's what Eevee could do. She could blink over, soar over, screw the wall. I'm there fighting you, and now I'm back, and you have to walk all the way around. Going up those stairs, going to the right, not only are you telegraphed, you're grouped up, but it takes too long. With pressure and you have to win a fight, it's just too long. You can't walk to the point that way. I really think that it was just a very intelligent understanding of that map and the strengths. I was like, Damba and Nara, what?
Yeah,
but wow, that was perfect.
It was wild. And then, of course, Barrett coming through. He had some changes. Did anything jump out at you about the Barrack in that last game, or sort of more of the same?
Absolutely not. I noticed that, Puleole really took really smart fights. He went on against the Furia. Whenever your front line can get aggressive trade with their support, whether it's at the beginning, the middle, or the end of the fight, that's a huge win. And Puleole did it multiple times. He zoned them out. And it was a map that you can get easily zoned out of, which is great. What I was impressed on is that it's not a traditionally easy map to push. So the amount of momentum that they had to have had in that one, that they dominated that game. They had a way better plan.
Make no mistake. Yeah.
Make no mistake. I play that map a lot. 3-3s are very common. It's hard to push. You have a very open line of sight for it to defend, but they couldn't get anything going.
And I think at game number 2, given that map number 1 was that Bazaar was Envy's pick, and they were blown out of the water, I would say, on map number 1. So now map number 2 going over to Virtus.Pro. We're back to our more traditional lineup of maps here, as I should say. But this is a real trendsetter game in this set, I think. I mean, if Virtus.Pro win map number 2 in as convincing a fashion as map number 1 was, what I was thinking could have been a really long day could end up being a very short
day. Because momentum is a huge part. That is the worst.
Definitely.
That's probably the worst thing as a carry that you want to have happen, to go 1-7, to go 3-5, to not have any rhythm, to lose quickly, and now have to go into a game that's kind of like do or die. Like essentially going down 2-0, that's a tough hill to climb.
Right.
And so the fact is, that was a bad start. You would have wanted that to last longer. Even if you lost a lot, you got a lot of experience playing and warming up, or you get on the positive end of that. Maybe you get a lot of kills, but it's quick, but at least you know, okay, I'm popping off. We had the wrong lineup. They had the wrong lineup, and they couldn't get anything going, and it ended quickly. So this is tough. I thought Envy drafted nicely.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad
Dave.
draft.
And right here, their big adjustment is they're taking off all power tanks right now. And so leaving the Genos open gives them freedom to pick the Eevee here, which I think Random Noob is going to be telling them he wants to get back on. That should be a very contested pick within the set, and I would expect that to come 1 or 2.
It's actually pretty interesting considering I feel like we've normally seen an Atlas Con one or the other, sometimes both, in a lot of the games over the past few weeks. Genos has kind of filled in one of those tank bans every once in a while. Maybe an Eevee sneaks in here. In this case, though, both off the board, as well as Torvald and Makoa flanking them there. Genos' first pick here for Virtus.Pro, continuing his high-impact play. And then Ash Barrack. Those are, I would say, the two strongest. I mean, Inara's still around, though, and that's where my eyes kind of go, because Virtus.Pro were happy and thrilled even with the way Inara performed last game, and they picked her first. So Envy obviously prioritizing frontliners, maybe just specifically the Inara a little bit differently. But Ash Barrack, I mean, those are two strong picks as well.
They work well with Genos, so they take it away, and I think Envy are smart to do that. But I still think that the Eevee might have been a better place to get Noob on, because you got to get him comfortable going into game 2. It just has to be something where he has a lot of success. Not only could they forfeit the Eevee, they could forfeit the Cassie here, which is big. Inara's going to get taken maybe to avoid getting really screwed with a triple tank position, which we know can work. But the Cassie's going to go. I think Envy get a little lucky on this end because they prioritize Rock Monkey and not Fasheko. I think Eevee is more important for Random Noob to get than it is for Fish.
And Eevee definitely still on the board. Of course, they need 2 damage dealers and a healer to round out their lineup here. With that third pick, they'll have one sort of flex at the end, so I imagine a healer will come through here. There's the Damba, and then maybe the Eevee. I mean, at this point, Virtus.Pro still need their blaster. If you're going to pick an Eevee or a Drogoz, now's the time. They do just that here. And then they leave, I think, importantly, that 5th spot open for their flex pick. Genos, Inara, Cassie, a strong start here for Virtus.Pro, needing another tank.
I'd like
maybe
Ruckus
a blaster.
here.
Ruckus, he's kind of gone in and out of favor. It's interesting you mentioned that. Not in that he's gone through changes. It's just some teams really like Ruckus and other teams just don't want to touch him.
Yeah, I think Ruckus is good for both these players who play at Rubu and Puleole. They've both had very good histories with Ruckus. I think that Fisheko is really important here. Does he opt for a Drogo? Something in his pocket. I think he could also Mave, which might be nice, and that's what they're going to select. So he's going to grab that. And I do think that an off-tank like Ruckus will work best. That's what they go for. And now Envy, like you said, able to flex their second DPS. I expect Leon, but it's going to be the Shaolin.
And Shaolin, again, another champion that sort of started to come into favor. I think a lot of people sort of mentioned him as once Xin started to leave the meta. I don't want to mince words because I forgot who we sat down and interviewed about this, but talking about why Shaolin started to come back a little bit. And it's not so much that he's suddenly gotten buffed or become better, but like with Xin leaving, with other champions kind of falling out of the meta, Shaolin's one of the remaining champions that can deal with flankers somewhat well, which is why he started, I think, to come into favor a little bit more. And we've seen mixed success, I would say, on Shaolin, though. Yeah,
I mean, he actually is a relatively winning champion for being picked relatively at about 23%. So every game or so, he's gonna get through every 4 games. What I like about, I think, Virtus.Pro's lineup is it has a theme. I think they have a lot of very dangerous in Ruckus, Mave, and Cassie people who could take advantage of those marks. The Inara is tanky in herself, but because she's Ash Barrack, she'll be able to match up with the intensity of their sustain decently, although the Genos pairing's not as strong. I just think that the Shaolin Eevee have to perform. They have good matchups to do it against, but it is a very heavy task for them right now against the pressure of the Mave. I think it's going to be on them.
High potential, but high floor of execution maybe is the way to look at the Envy lineup. They need to bounce back here on Ascension Peak if they don't want this one to start rolling in the opposite direction. Let's send it down to Nick and Gore and hear what they're thinking.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate the thoughts. VP versus Team Envy and our beautiful desk homies up there. There's a couple of things I think to note is obviously Ruckus, one of the few sets I think you might even see him in is probably this one.
And not only that, but in the best scenario where it is that he doesn't have to go against, I guess for Virtus.Pro, he's not against Rock Monkey's Cassie, right? Which would probably be the one deadliest counter you could have to it. But Puleole, we have Rubu, who obviously is the one who did our Play Like a Pro for it, and then Phoenix is the only other player who really has been willing to kind of put their neck out on the line. Well, I guess Sadak, I can't forget him. So we have like 4 players out of the league that really like Ruckus, and even still, he doesn't come through that often.
Sheko almost on accident hitting some of these daggers, I feel like, into the back line, a little bit on the Barrack. Very predictive couple of seconds here for Fisheko. The predictive pounce, the predictive daggers. Barrack is a thick boy, but I mean, these are around the corner. He's feeling good about this. Into the first blood with confidence, Fisheko. I gotta say, I really thought that one was going the way of Random Noob.
And that's just perfect showcasing of like keeping your cooldowns in mind and acknowledging the fact that Mave has a reset. That's like you go in with a pounce, you hit some daggers, you go in with another pounce. Like you keep yourself up there. And otherwise, I think if you don't have your reset ready, if you're not ready to hit that or you're just a little too slow, that's Eevee 100% of the way. Yeah. Mave being able to come out with that trade. I mean, it's just setting Virtus.Pro to be able to, again, do what they did last map. Move into the point and just take control.
Chunking, boxing away here. Random Noob back in. Big mid-range shot on Hecate to put him low, but Puleole cleans up Rock Monkey. So all of the damage is really on Random Noob's shoulders. Right now, I think Rubu's doing a good job keeping pressure, choking people out, and it's going to collapse to the tune of about 2 kills. Big game is here, but Hecate is one shot. This turret might kill him, and it will. Toki with the turret kill. 60-60 on the objective.
And this is just going to be the boxing match, I think, that's going to come down. And another thing that's going to be interesting for this matchup, and it specifically comes around I want to say where these front lines are. Barrick going to be matching up with the Inara, but overall Ashe survives a little more often than you'll see out of a Ruckus, so that's going to be very big. Rock Monkey just erased right there by Vex, but it's 96% here for Envy.
There it is. Now another damage reduction pop from Dosups. It's not the best throughput healer he's got behind him, but he's focused on just walking down this support. Doesn't want to let Maldamba get any more healing off in this fight, but not only does Damba survive, Tolki helps him turn the kill around onto Dosup's head, withdrawing into the fight. Rock Monkey opens up onto Genos, misses the shots. 99% for Team Envy. Overtime dancing in and out here. Heat Haze is charged up from Rock Monkey. He pops it just to stay alive, just to run away. He's such low HP, but there's a couple of members of Virtus.Pro here to keep dreams alive.
A couple more shots is all it's going to take. They get rid of Fish Echo, but now the front lines are back in business. Unfortunately for them, so is Random Noob on the Eevee. Gets rid of Fish Echo, gets rid of Hecate, is about to get rid of Dosups, and gets rid of any presence Virtus.Pro had on the point.
There it is, back in control of Team Envy. The first point going their way, and it's a tough start for Rock Monkey, but not for Random Noob, for Tolki, or for Rubu. 3-0 for the front line for Team Envy. Finally starting to show some signs of life.
One thing I will highlight about Rock Monkey, though, and it's something that changed with this patch. You're not going to really see it that much, I want to say, on a Shaolin. You'd probably see it way more on a Skye, but we know how likely she's going to get picked. When it comes down to it is the fact that there's a period of time right now with the way stealth was actually changed that if he does his withdrawal, it's not going to break until either he breaks it, which is with his shot, or it runs out of time. Like, you stay in stealth even if you're taking damage, and you could get a small glimpse of that as Puleole mowed him down earlier, but it didn't keep him alive any longer. It just was a cool little caveat.
Fish Echo was slightly absent in that fight as well. He picks up 2 during the defense. Rubu with another 2 slams it down. Sometimes Rubu just has these moments, has these types of performances that really keep Envy alive. There was a really important one on the point where he choked out 2 people and confirmed both kills. Nice shoulder bash for damage there. You can see he's in 3rd place. Tolki's in 2nd. Both of those 2 only trailing Hecate's big game, Cassie. But you got to say, these are the 2 taking that big game on the chin and fighting through it and still on an 18 streak. Very impressive from the Envy front line.
I mean, it was one of those, when you had mentioned it, both him and Tolki were 3-0. Tolki gets a single death added onto his column, and then Rubu just adds 3, I think now 4 eliminations, most of those being kills. But I mean, he is just playing lights out. I don't know what it was that they decided to do between game 1 and 2, if it's just that draft. But I mean, this Ashe is bringing so much. Now a 20 streak for her. She is literally driving this game.
Well, they've got more throughput, more healing on the objective at the start of this game until Cauterize comes online. But with a 2-0 start in 5 minutes, Cauterize might never come online in this game. Another thing is this fight with Luminary, when you run, I'm going to call it 3 DPS. I mean, Ruckus is here to do damage and just be tanky in the backline. If your 3 DPS is not winning this fight, Team Envy are going to win that fight 10 times out of 10. If you don't win, you lose. By default, there's no question about it. Random Noob, though he died first in this fight, this was a long 3.5-minute point fight. He comes back in to have a pretty big impact down the home stretch.
I mean, 3.5-minute point fight into one of the faster pushes I think we've seen on Ascension Peak. It is incredible from them. And I think the biggest thing is, well, whether or not this matchup is going to go the same way. You can see Fish Echo already not anywhere near as aggressive as he was last time. And if they can get rid of Rubu, I mean, he hasn't died just yet. They need to lock him down because he's already got caught 3.
Nice shot there, indeed. And caught 3 is a big problem. Rubu's got it. Tolki's got it. This is nuts. The amount of credits these front lines have after just 1 round of play is insane. 1v1 here between Fish Echo and Random Noob. Who's going to take it? Eevee's got so much more sustain than Maeve. In and out of the ice block. There's some healing starting to come through for Fish Echo. Noob realizes it soars up. Big daggers here. 1 more from Fish Echo would do it. Both players missing shots here. Back and forth. Pounce misses. Fish Echo finally finds a home. An intense 1v1 there. One of the rare vacuum 1v1s we get to see. Fishy did get some healing, I will say. All's fair, though.
I mean, that was to supplement the fact that Ice Block is going to keep Eevee in that fight, right? That is just okay, we're going to try to keep this as even as possible. You could feel them holding their breath coming through, but it's 99-12 right now. Envy are down 2, both front lines getting erased. There goes Rock Monkey. And if they can get their way, Mr. Hayes is going to fall down shortly thereafter. And I like the stagger because, again, this is the perfect moment to be able to get not only the support, but if they could have gotten the Eevee there as well, then it just kind of keeps it as a 3v5 for the first portion of the uphill battle.
Oh, man. That was fun to watch, have to say.
Dude, flank-on-flank fights are the best.
Huge, long-range shots. Not even mid-range. Long-range ice staff connections here for Random Noob. Is going to put the foot down for Team Envy. Send Virtus.Pro back to base. And I got to say, you know, that 1v1 took so long that VP were basically at 70% by the time Pacheco finally managed to grab the W there. And it's not the big end of the world to lose that fight for VP. They need to go back, spend some credits. And even though that was an extremely quick push, the fact that that's 3.5 minutes on the objective, like VP's front line, they're getting a lot of credits for contesting the objective that long. Yes, Cauterize 3 is online for Tolkien and for Rubu, but VP are not so far out of this game where you're past that break point of like you still only have your first item that you bought in the second round.
Now that you can look at it, I mean, Dosup's compared to Rubu just in terms of how many credits they have, it's only like 150, maybe about 200 behind.
Yeah.
And that is perfect for him. I mean, yeah, you're going to be maybe one tier of a cheaper item back behind, technically, overall from Rubu. But at this rate, depending on how this push goes, you could tie that up incredibly easily. The thing that kind of catches my eye out of all of this, though, is the fact that, well, yes, resilience is big for Envy, but Master Riding has come out for Puliole, and I think that's just the Ruckus idea of not only getting back into this fight, but also getting set up before the fight could start, right? Like, come in and just be there.
You live fast, you die fast. You need to get back fast. Ruckus, you can get more aggressive when you run Master Riding, and one thing I'm looking at with these resilience is it kind of made me look at the Virtus.Pro ults, and their ults aren't that great. Like, I feel like we saw Seismic Crash, Time and Space combine for 1 kill. That's fine. That's, I think, a perfectly acceptable use of those two. That's going to be harder and harder to do with Resilience Online. Midnight's going to become near worthless with with Resilience Online. Scout is Scout. It's kind of always is what it always is. And Hexifier it's kind of like Time and Space. You could kill a bunch of people with it. You might kill one person with it, but there's a chance you kill nobody and you just die.
It's entirely possible they've just been listening, because I feel like you've mentioned the most about how Midnight is like kind of brought down by that, and that is one of the bigger team fight ultimates. And this is that instance where, you know, a lot of the players have mentioned this, like, where exactly does Ying fit in? Like, where do you want to be able to pull in some of the supports that don't have the same CC? And yeah, you're still going to be able to kind of bring people up with your Scorpion Grip there from Genos, but like, for the most part, you're looking at 2 CCs that can change the game, but I think it actually might be targeting Midnight more than the Seismic Crash, because I don't know how big Dosups has been this game.
You know, I think the Seismic Crash, the only thing we've really seen it do is set up a Time and Space, and it's kind of like, who cares which one you really are worried more about?
Yeah,
because you're getting
both.
Yeah, you don't really have to pick there. That's why Resilience is so popular. It's cheap, super effective, and most of the time, you only need level 2 of it. You don't. It's one of the cheaper items, so it's that much easier just to get to level 2. It's one of those very free things to do, and I mean, even a Void Grip, you're right. Even a Void Grip could throw you off, especially if you're Eevee, so it's just nice not to have to worry about any of that stuff.
And like you said, with level 2, and this isn't going to be, I think, as much with Eevee as it is with like the front lines, but originally, like, no resilience as a front line, that could be the difference between your life and death getting Void Gripped. But then once you have like resilience 2, you go up, you fall down. Like, you just literally just come right back down to the ground. It's kind of like you just jump for a slight moment, which admittedly almost hurts Virtus.Pro more than it helps them.
Overtime started here. Things starting to wind down, though. Virtus.Pro are running out of gas quickly. Genos just doesn't have the healing. Cauterize 3s are online. There's nothing to do for Virtus.Pro. You have to win that fight going into that fight. You can't pull that one out of thin air. That one's going to equalize here, and we will go back to our starting positions.
And that's the other thing about the draft that Envy pulled through, and it's not just what they drafted, but when they drafted it. They grabbed Ash Barrack immediately after the Genos, and in my mind, that is, well, we know Barrack is really, really good with the Genos because he can kind of keep himself going. He doesn't rely as much on the healing because he has his own shields. And the same thing can be said for Ash. Like, they're both going to kind of keep themselves alive, keep themselves safe, either get in or get out of the fight on their own. And so they work incredibly well, not to mention the damage amp on top of them.
Yeah.
And so they immediately gutted Virtus.Pro of the 2 strongest front lines you could have with that.
Well, we just watched that 1v1 between Random Noob and Pacheco, and I've got to say, I think that's a really good one to watch. If you're trying to learn how to, like, just do projectile characters better, watch that 1v1 back. Look at how patient, even Pacheco, as good as he is, how patient he is with his auto attacks. He's getting feared off right now into the distance. frankly, there's not really a lot of follow-up onto him. 1-for-1 so far in this engagement. A lot of damage poured out onto Tolki to the point where Hekate can clean it up. More damage onto Mr. Hayes to the point where Pule Ule can clean up. He's not getting killing blows, but Fisheko is poking a lot of people out. Rubu is left on an island, nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. Comeback mechanics still enabled for Virtus.Pro, and a team fight like that, you better believe that they're going to craft this payload.
Well, they're at least going to be able to get some overtime. Tolki goes in for a touch, and it seems like Envy are going to be back on this, but they lose Random Noob real early in this comeback fight. And even though they're able to get rid of Fisheko, they get rid of Pule Ule. That actually might be able to equalize some things, depending on Rubu and how long he lives through this versus Dosups.
Overtime is going to be a factor here. This is one of the larger points. And I don't actually know in terms of raw square footage here. This point versus Bazaar, it honestly looks like it would be close. Big Ice Storm onto 2, but the follow-up gore, it's just not there. It was a great lockdown. And it does accomplish the goal of slowing down Virtus.Pro, if nothing else, but nobody dies off it.
And that's the big thing. Now they're back full 5 force. They just need to stop Envy. The thing is, Envy have to be on this objective. They leave. You see that overtime timer. It is ready to drop to nothing. And that is going to be the big thing. Virtus.Pro, they can back off a little bit. They can play this slower. But it seems like they're still being just as aggressive, and it's kind of hurting them.
Really, really close. Another 1v1 potential here. Dashing away. Random Noob will connect. He gets the better of Fisheko this time around. 99%, but clawing their way back. Team Envy at 69 and climbing. Rock Monkey with a big kill, and he lives and puts the double into Vex 30. Goremizer, that might have just been the turnaround. Envy, I think, have done it. They have stayed alive, planted huge against Ruckus. Pule Ule has struggled on that champion this time around. Team Envy dig in their heels, fight back against the 99% to nothing lead, and I eat my words, they're going to take game 2.
If I had to choose a champion that was going to be second to Big Game Cassie in terms of just getting rid of Ruckus, it'd probably have to be Shaolin with Wrecker. Like, once it comes on, Wrecker in a planted is going to be 2 shots to the shield, 3 shots to the body, you are gone. And it seems like Envy, especially with Rock Monkey playing that as honed in as he was during the last point fight, definitely brought that one for today.
A lot of big moments there. There's another great 1v1 between Eevee and Maeve. I loved watching it. There was one, you can't even really call it a mistake because I think it's worked out so many times. It's one of those 50-50 things. You saw Fisheko like track that Eevee, and then she blinked, and then he almost went to go track her again, but then he said, "No, I'm gonna stare at this spot.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wait for the wormhole." But it never came.
Yeah.
And that's when Pule Ule dies. He's just waiting for that wormhole that never comes. Unfortunately, goes the way of Random Noob that time around. It was a very, very fun game to watch. Let's head it back to the desk as this set is all tied up.
We are all tied up, and that was the bounce back I wanted, and I think we all needed to see out of Envy in order for this set to be as interesting as we had predicted. Oh, yeah. 4-1 in this game. I don't have the gusto.
No,
I don't have the same gusto that you do.
It's okay.
That's all right. Random Noob, though, on the Eevee, showing us why the Eevee is as important as it was, surprisingly falling a little bit. But he had quite a game on the Winter Witch this time around.
He certainly did. And I think it came down to, obviously, execution. What I think what I think is more important to look at from the bigger POV is you let Random Noob get Eevee relatively for free. You really just selected a different damage champion, and I think the way they went about this draft was in a better way for Envy than it was for VP. Yeah. Their draft comes out fine, but I think Fishy not prioritizing the Eevee, knowing how valuable that is to Random Noob. I mean, it's 20-6, man. 20-6. There's no other reason they won that game. No other reason. If he has a 7-10 performance, I mean, it looks like Virtus.Pro have a very good chance at pushing this one back in on many different overtimes. He was unstoppable. And if this doesn't give them a clear picture, like, okay, all right, we gotta figure this Eevee thing out, I don't know what will.
And I think, actually, it was sort of this replay, but largely this last point fight in general, I think is a very good sort of microscope into how impactful he was the entire game. I mean, he was able to finally win the 1v1 against Fisheko. He had a tough time against the Maeve a few times throughout that game, but really this last point fight cleans up Fisheko in the 1v1 on the backside, flies in, gets some blast damage, gets another kill. Yeah. And that's why I say that's a small example of what he was doing the entire game. He was able to single-handedly, of course with the help of the rest of his team, but really drive home that final point, and that's what he was doing the rest of the time. Fisheko did a good job, though, of I would say, dealing with Random Noob here and there. A lot of the early 1v1s went the way of Fasheko, but I think once Random Noob started to really feel his rhythm.
It was not efficient fighting, let's put it that way.
No, there was a really long 1v1 at the beginning
It's
where
like,
they were
my
both
God.
just they were both just missing
guys
back and forth. But
got a side bet here? Like,
yeah,
what the
they
heck
do.
are you two
Most-
fighting for?
most missed shots.
There's 8 other players. Like, they were isolated. No one even looked at them.
Right.
Like, not even Vex came over and said, hey, buddy, here's a heal to
Just
help
gonna
you
let
out.
them do
Just
their
like,
thing.
do your thing. Like, it was ridiculous. But and you know, whoever came out top of that, they were okay with the result.
Yeah.
The problem I have is that Fasheko is just as good. It's one thing to have no chance, right? Like, you know, I go out there, I don't know. I really don't, I'm not thinking of a great metaphor right now, but something that I can easily compete in and maybe just do just as well as, say, you.
Yeah.
If I just give you the opportunity to do it, I say, you know, I'm bowing out. I'm not even going to try. That is unfortunate because people are going to look at your performance and say, wow, no one could do it like that. I understand if you don't have a great Eevee player. Fasheko is a great Eevee player. You have to fight for the Eevee. You have to show that off until you see that it's just going to be way too high of a priority and you're not willing to give up X for the Eevee. Right there, they didn't really even get
I mean,
they got the Genos, but then the Eevee
Right.
was still available 2-3. Like, you're not getting anything. They're prioritizing the Inara heavily. I like that for Doe, but
the Inara wasn't the issue there. It was
there's still a
Random Noob
Barrack
on the
available.
Eevee.
There's
Right.
all the aggro tank. I don't know. I think that VP will look back at that and say Eevee would have been way better for us to have. Even the Inara we could have traded for a Barrack and been fine if we were on the better end of that matchup.
Do you still prioritize her the same here on Stone Keep?
I don't see VP changing their game plan so heavily mid-set. That it would be surprising to me. I hope they do, but I don't see that happening. And like I was saying, Envy have been getting great power picks. They have gone.
Same draft.
They have gone Ash Barrack. VP here have a chance to Eevee Cassie, which is exactly what they had a chance to do before.
Yeah. That's what they did game 1.
But they didn't. But they took a Nara here, and it was maybe to ward off the triple tank. I don't know if that's as viable of a reasoning here. I think you're okay with Genos having Eevee and Nara and fighting against triple tank. Eevee Cassie and fighting against triple tank.
I mean, that's what they did. They did the Eevee Cassie stack, map number 1 on Bazaar, and that was a handy winning
Yeah.
on their side. Very handily dealt with Envy in that case. So they do go Eevee. Cassie's still on the board. I would be surprised if Envy don't take Cassie here. I think if you leave Cassie open to Virtus.Pro on the last 2 picks, could be interesting. They still need, I would say, I mean, they'll go healer, something else here. I would imagine Dama Cassie would be the route they go. It's looking like that's what they'll do. I think this is smart. Again, it's sort of one of those two-pronged picks. They get Rock Monkey on something very comfortable for him.
Yeah.
And on the opposite side, you take something away from Hecate that you know he can perform on. So now Virtus.Pro have the final 2 picks here. 1 DD and another frontliner for him.
You know, if you don't take Inara, and this is just the way I'm thinking about it, you get to take Cassie there.
Yeah.
And if they take Damba and Nara, I mean, then what are they rounding that out with? Maybe a Tyra, maybe a shot. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like VP are still in the driver's seat, and they could pick a Nara where they pick, you know, this last tank. But man, oh man, the Fernando.
Yeah, Fernando's kind of been in and out of
I'm
favor,
not sure.
I would say.
I don't feel great about this
Oh.
lineup from VP at all.
I was going to say maybe a Drogos, maybe a Bomb King. I feel like we keep getting trolled. There was emoji hovered the other day that didn't get picked, and I was sad about it. But
I know.
Bomb King is the hover here. I think that's a good pick here for Random Noob. Is the question mark in your eyes the Fernando and then the Inara instead of the Cassie?
I just feel like the high priority of the way they're playing tanks feels like a meta. The priority in the draft for VP when there are still power picks DPS wise for Rock and Random Noob, knowing what they succeed on, I think they could shift. I think Doe and Pule are flexible enough to where you don't have to prioritize. Once Ash and Barrack go, you start prioritizing DPS. They've already got their pick. All of the other tanks are banned. If you want to prioritize tanks, ban Cassie, ban Eevee, leave Atlas open, leave Khan open. Do that. I think that what's happening here is I'm seeing Inara and Nando going pretty early. I hope that this works out. Envy looked really good for the draft, though. I like their draft better than VP's here.
Well, very much, I would say up to this point, it's been sort of a battle between
It's a battle
who
of
gets
wits,
the Eevee, who performs. We're going down to game 3. We're down what is this? A best of 5 now, I guess. Whichever team is able to win 3 more is going to take the day. Envy, Virtus.Pro, Stone Keep. Casters, take it away.
Thank you, gentlemen. We're leveled off the playing field now as we head to Stone Keep. Small adjustments in the draft for Virtus.Pro, but largely it feels like the same approach.
Yeah. And I will admit I'm kind of on the fence about Fernando, but I feel like that's just he's been so hit or miss the last few weeks, right? Like some teams have brought him out and it looks unstoppable. Some teams bring him out and it looks like literally anything else would have been a better choice. And so I'm curious to see how this one's going to come out and like just pick up. Is it going to be the Fernando that we kind of expect to see, or is he just going to be an immortal machine where really that's his only utility?
Well, we'll have to see as the Titans begin to clash here on the high ground of Stone Keep. Straight to the objective is Dosup Sonara wanting to play the objective game, right? Not an overly aggressive team, our Virtus.Pro, at least not through the first 3 games here. They've really wanted to leverage the Sonara. 45% without losing a kill. It's a nice little trade.
I mean, being able to just slowly back off. This is the thing that being ahead in the point gets you. And it was the same thing that they had going for them a little bit last time, but they didn't do it, which is we can back off. Like, we've already got so much on top of this. You don't have to sit there and fight the entire time. You can just take that moment and be like, cool, a little bit of breathing room. I'm going to step back here, let my team regroup, let everyone get healed up. Then we can come back in for the fight. And it looks like it's working so much better for him. A late first blood, but it still comes out as Bullioli burns down the Bomb King.
Well, Scout comes out, and it actually pays some dividends here as Pacheco really kind of gets pounded as he comes through the door. Not expecting, I think, that type of accuracy, but Rock Monkey knew exactly where he was before he knew where he was even, I might say. 81%. Wall goes up to isolate the Sparrow on the objective. Might be a good little move. Pacheco, small reposition here as he tries to lock down one of these kills, but needs to connect a very long-range shot if he hopes to do so.
And as you had pointed out a couple games ago, or actually last game, long-range shots on Eevee are not the easiest thing to do. I mean, those projectiles, they move slow, and even though it's splash damage, 9 times out of 10, if you are firing from further than mid-range, that person just takes 2 steps to the left and you missed all of a sudden. So you have to look for things like that. But it's 90 to 84 right now. Ults are starting to get charged up right here, and some of them even being used.
Oh, 2 in a row, double kill. Akate plugging away dutifully, and a time and space connects for Vex to open things back up. I have to say, if that didn't happen, I don't think Virtus.Pro really would have had a way back in there. Some miracle superstar plays down the stretch allow Virtus.Pro to get this payload out on the field in their favor. A lot of ultimates spent as well. Like I said, Heat Haze, as well as the Through Time and Space, as well as the Seismic Crash, as well as the Dread Serpent. Many, many, many things were used. Rock Monkey has already used 2 scouts, which he is 35,000 damage in just over 3 minutes. He is really, really finding a ton of damage, but Gore, 001, no kills yet.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the biggest thing about it is the 2 kills for Envy haven't been because of this insane poke. Well, maybe in part to it, but he's not converting it. It's getting a lot of damage probably onto the Inara, onto the Fernando, and then they back off, they heal up, they throw up a shield, they throw up a wall, they get Vex to do whatever he needs to on Genos, which is admittedly just say, hey, get out of combat and sit behind this wall for a little bit. Whether it's your wall, your shield, or just something on the map, stay out of the fight for a little bit so that the healing can get you all the way up, and Nara is kind of a natural sponge for some healing, so she'll be able to come back in. I think that's where Rock Monkey is right now. I mean, 43,000, again, like pushing 15 to 20k damage ahead of anyone else. But he still hasn't gotten any like crazy kill, any crazy plays.
Ule muscles his way through the high ground, finds the kill on a Rock Monkey, and opens the door. Rubu, thankfully, as assert dominance, he's going to pop it just to buy some more time, to not give up the high ground completely. Retreating up the stairs is Tolki. His failsafe reset's going to allow him to get out of here for now. 60 seconds on the clock. Nice dodge from Pacheco. Up and over Rubu all around, but with only Cauterize 1, this is a very, very tough fight. A very, very tough nut to crack for an Eevee.
That's the unfortunate moment, and that is exactly why you want an Ashe against something like a Mave or an Eevee. Yes, they are squirrely. They get out of fights really fast sometimes. But as long as your shots are just so big in splash damage that you almost can't miss, that's exactly what you need. And I think that's the thing they have going for them. Between Bomb King and Ashe, locking down Eevee should be pretty easy, especially in scenarios like that when she's locked in a room.
Well, I see Random Noob going for some offensive poppy bombs on the Bomb King. He goes down, so I was going to say let's take a look at his loadout and see if he's running Jolt, but he's dead. No option to do that anymore. Just use King Bomb. Only 15 seconds on the clock here. This one's down to the wire for Virtus.Pro, and I feel like they've got a real shot.
I mean, they're coming through. Bomb King's back.
No jolt.
But whether or not they want to use, well, I mean, any of the remaining ults overall, like, is this Dread Serpent going to come through? Or are they just going to try to charge up what they have, which is exactly what I would recommend. Immortal gets used.
Yikes.
It saves everyone except for Pule Ule. But the question is whether or not that kind of stops their momentum with it.
And a seismic crash. Both frontliners dead. Virtus.Pro, they find a light at the end of the tunnel. Random Noob is able to fight back onto
She's looking rough.
Eevee. This is great stuff from both squads, both teams. Really full committing to the offense and the defense, respectively. It's just Envy that come out on top.
It's super dangerous. I feel like whenever you switch to Hecate or Rock Monkey, you're in for one of two things. You're going to see them hitting good shots, but it doesn't really mean anything. Like, cool, I hit Nanara even though she's under a Furia Beam. That kind of damage doesn't mean anything. Or you see that moment where it switches to Rock and you can tell this is a kill shot. This is a kill shot. Like, he is in the zone. And I think that's something that Envy, again, that's something they've had that's strong for them. That's something that happens when they get ahead. And the further ahead they get, I think the more worried about Rock Monkey you have to be, which means you have to divert attention from Random Noob, who admittedly in these last few games has been the most consistent.
Well, 1-1 now on the scoreboard as both teams give it their best shot, but ultimately the payload does not make its way through. Heat Haze is still available. Time and Space still available. Seismic Crash and Immortal literally just used. So was Ice Storm, to be fair, but Fishy's already got it back to half charge. He's been doing a good job. Of course, this is his premier pick. He's the best Eevee player in the world, so Virtus.Pro are happy to give it to him whenever they can. Early aggression on Narubu. And my goodness gracious, that's 4. You know, most EVs blink in, one shot, blink out. That was 4 shots. That was the shot, blink in, shot, soar around, find 2 more before he gets out. Really, really high pressure player.
And just making sure that you know, again, your cooldowns, you know the rotation, you know the rhythm of Eevee. And that's one of the things that is separating Fisheko, I think, even from just the rest when it comes down to it. You get those moments. You get the blink in 1 shot or the blink in 4 shots. He knows his timers. He knows his health
He knows
bar.
what he can do, man.
And it's second nature. That's the difference. Like, it's not a, I'm thinking about this all the time. It's, he just knows. It's the feel.
You can. I think you're exactly right there. I think when you watch a good Eevee player, they're doing the thing, right?
Yeah.
They're blinking in, they're hitting the shot, they're blinking out. They're going through the motions, but each situation is just a little bit different. Everyone's got their cooldowns, their HP versus your cooldowns and your HP. And he just does such an incredible job of making sure that he can milk every last second out of it. Another thing that I want to say, Virtus.Pro are doing nuts right now, almost better than anyone else in the league, is setting up time and space. Just using it. Use it with an Ice Storm. Use it with a Seismic Crash. Use it and hit it every single time. It feels like they have done a phenomenal job at actually making that a very consistent kill option.
You know, I feel like there was an interview with them after one set
Nice
they won. It
shots.
might have actually been a set against Eevee they won where we asked them, you know, what is it? Because Vex has been doing that religiously this entire time. And when we're in week 10, it's been 10 weeks of whenever he's playing Genos, he's getting at least 2 kills with a through time and space in a map. And that's the thing is they've said, you know what, we're willing to commit a Seismic Crash with a through time and space to get a kill. Like, we're willing to throw 2 ults to make sure that hits because it is more important that it connects and gets a kill or 2 kills than it is to just hold on to it and hope for that key moment.
You know, Seismic Crash. Oh, look at this cheeky little Seismic Crash. Doseps has gone for this 2 rounds in a row, walls himself up to get the elevation, and then he can Seismic Crash onto the high ground safely. It doesn't work out this time around. Random Noob will get the first kill onto Pule Ule. And I will say Seismic Crash and Ice Storm, very different ultimates. I think Ice Storm is, in my mind,
Smoke
better.
if you got him. Just throw it out there.
It's better for setting up time and space because of that. You can win a fight off of a good Seismic Crash without the need for something else.
Yeah.
But time and space, I think, is a great way to make Ice Storm a very, very deadly ultimate, not just a control-oriented one.
It's kind of that where, like, through time and space, if it hits, it's a full ultimate, but most of the time I'd consider it like 3/4 of an ult.
Sure.
Where it's just like, you're not going to hit it every single time, so you can't guarantee that damage or that ult. As actually, a King Bomb is going to be coming through right now, looking for some stuns, or maybe just trying to buy some
Waits
time.
it
That
out.
Immortal did not wait out long enough. Does get some damage onto Doseps, but it's not enough to find the kill, and he's still dancing down there.
Oh, he is, Gore. He is absolutely treading on thin ice. The Rock has to dive in on this one. I mean, into the literal blender. Unfortunate there for Rock. He had no other choice. Had to throw his life out on the line. 3-1 now as VP do manage to get that one through. And one last comment on the time and space Ice Storm.
Yeah.
Even once you get resilience, Ice Storm is a constantly refreshing,
Yeah.
persistent CC. So it doesn't matter. It's always going to be as good as it is.
As long as you're standing in it. Like, the minute you step out, yeah, resilience can take that effect, but it's going to, like you said, it reapplies every tick. And so when you find those moments,
Pretty rapid, too.
it's really solid. And it's one of those things that it does like
couple
just
hundred
enough
damage.
damage
Yeah.
that like you can get a kill with it, but like it's a flashy play if you do it.
Absolutely. It's the blink in, ice storm, and blink out and spray and start emoting as they just tick to death like 80 yards away from you, and you just get to watch it happen. A lot of resilience coming through for VP, not so much for Team Envy. Really just the front lines at the moment have chosen to pick it up. Some rejuvenates, certainly. 21% early objective lead has always gone the way of Virtus.Pro, but this time comeback mechanic is in play for Team Envy, and they get the first blood.
That's going to be a big one onto Hecate as well. They don't get rid of either of the front lines, but, I mean, you might as well get rid of all their pressure. There goes Pule. There goes
played,
Fishy.
Rubu.
This is exactly what they need, and nice with Rock Monkey and Rubu in tandem, pincering Dosups. There's literally nowhere to run as Zanara there. There's nowhere that's safe.
Rubu plays that incredible for a couple of reasons. I think, rotates around there, and Envy, I think, with that victory, are going to be able to just get the capture off of comeback mechanic, like we mentioned. It's so potent, very difficult to play against. But I like that, Rubu was almost just threatening Fisheko. Fishy's been operating out of the Cathedral basically every round now. Rubu just makes that Cathedral not safe for him anymore. He's just going to be constantly poking him out, keeping him in combat, making sure that healing is minimized. Then they try to collapse on Rubu. They try to be like, oh, you're not, we're not trapped in here with you. It's quite the opposite, sir. But then Rubu just snap ultimates. Yeah, that was a great ult. I loved it.
And stands there and is just like, cool, you want to keep fighting? Like, if you want to do this, there's a reason I had a 20 streak at the beginning of last game. Like, let's keep going. He's always down to throw down. And it's just that is the thing. We look at, Rubu. I feel like we mentioned Ruckus earlier when it got picked up because of the fact that Rubu has made some incredible plays on that. But there was a period, he did so incredible on Ashe on a Frog Isle map. He's done it so consistently, I think, since then. And she's become just a staple pick for Envy because of this.
Yikes. And the King Bomb is going to roll through. Pule dashes away, but sir, you won't be able to escape this fate, unfortunately. Team Envy with a very quick offense here will even things up 3-3. Every ultimate is available for Virtus.Pro. Only the King Bomb was used for Team Envy. And given how much value that ultimate hasn't gotten thus far this game,
yeah.
I'm not that upset about it. I think that's fine to commit just one ultimate, clean, get that capture, and move on with your life.
Especially it's at that moment of, we just need the one kill. Like, the rest of VP seemed like they were very content to get rid of it, or to let that payload go through at that moment in time. And once you have that ult come through, I think that's the call of just like, you know what? It's over for us. Let's just go ahead and let that one roll. We'll see what we can do coming into the next round, knowing that, well, at least they don't have that one because everybody else in this game has their ult charged. It's going to take Rubu, 2-3 shots to be able to get his fully there, but everyone's going to be prepped for it. And this time around, he's not going to corral that Eevee.
Oof, he's going for Hecate as well. You can see the Illuminate's been picked up. Rubu has all the vision in the world. He's taken the scenic route around this fight, Gormizer. Can he get involved in time? Virtus.Pro should use this advantage if they can. They had the man advantage. Rubu has completed the rotation, though. He has completely surrounded this fight and starting to choke out VP in the Cathedral yet again.
This is exactly where he needed to go, and he took the same route that Rock Monkey took the first time. But Hecate not doing enough damage, not focusing the right people. The ults are charged up, but they aren't able to use them in the right way. And Envy, they just systematically get rid of Virtus.Pro that time around. That was just a checklist.
And that's where it's tough to say, but when Rubu, the only time you can really punish Envy there is as Rubu is making that lengthy rotation, and as Pule Ule go down, it's a very clean round for Envy. The risk taken there is how long Rubu was not able to be in that fight. But the payoff is that he gets around that fight, and VP have nowhere to retreat to, absolutely stonewalled.
And it was a really good call because, if you look at kind of that last round, or the round before the last round, he goes into corral Eevee. It's, I'm going to keep you in combat. I'm going to keep you feeling danger. And then that moment was just absolutely, okay, I'm going to do that, but in another way. I'm going to take this portion, scare everyone up here and push you out. Then I'm going to loop around. And even though it's cool, that's 15 seconds, 20 seconds, he's not in the fight. He's like, once I get there, though.
I know. And that's that 20 seconds. That's when VP just have to kind of realize what's going on and all in. 4v5. Yeah. Rubu's isolated. He's making this big rotation. That's the only time they had to punish him, though. That's a pretty clean win. I'm very, very much impressed with how they bounced back. Let's get it back to the desk and hear their thoughts on Game 3.
I think bounce back is the right way to word that one. That was a 3-1 turnaround there from Envy. Virtus.Pro inches away from taking it. And then Evan, Envy were somehow able to turn it around, win 3 straight points for themselves, and take the win here on this map. That last point fight was kind of sloppy from the Virtus.Pro side of things. They were all very trapped, and Envy were able to take advantage of the positioning.
I gotta say, I'm very. Just the set is super intriguing, so it's great to watch. First of all, but I'm also very unsure in many different facets. One of them is I don't know how strongly they need a Nara on the side of Virtus.Pro. I'm unsure why the top 3 prioritization every game, and I'm also unsure is how they're banning. I'm also unsure as to why they are limiting themselves tank-wise, and if they are limiting in that on purpose, then having to go for the Inara because of not banning out any of the DPS champions.
Right.
You know, playing that game, even on second pick or first pick. I am curious just about the decision-making around it, and I'm also, it's just fascinating how Envy have bounced back from a very bad situation. I mean, kudos to them. I think Mr. A's played well, stayed on that point the entire time. I thought Dosovs got caught here and needed to dive very quickly. They had no chance to get back once he didn't touch the point and take overtime. So,
yeah, definitely. I think Mr. A's had a great game. I think another important thing to look at, that was Virtus.Pro's pick. After Envy won game number 2, Virtus.Pro take us to Stone Keep. Envy look like they're going to lose, then reverse it and win. And another thing I kind of want to key in on is, I mean, it's a small sample size, but at least for games 1 and 2, either Fisheko on the Eevee pops off and helps them win the game. Game number 2, Ascension Peak, it was really Random Noob on the Eevee who had a game and a half and helped Envy win that one. And I think despite not having the best slash line in this one, I believe he was 4-6 and then, double-digit assists for Random Noob, getting off of the Eevee and still getting the win, I think is a good comfort factor for them. Sort of realizing, all right, if we get the Eevee, it's good. We can feel comfortable where Random Noob is at. But showing that he can perform on something like a Bomb King just as well, we know that he can. But having a game where you don't need him to pop off and are still able to win it, I think is important for Envy as well.
Virtus.Pro are going against the grain here. What we've seen work, what's been more of the analysis throughout the entire set and the entire season is that the best aggro tanks in Khan and Atlas, and if you compare them together, better, win you games. These are what decide victories. The way that they have transitioned into a lot of prioritization, this is 2 games now, or 2-point tanks. First map worked brilliantly. That was a lot of the Inara, right? But I think you had the Barrack there. That's a strong pickup right now. You're giving Ash Barrack 2 times in a row now, and 2 times in a row, things have not worked out, even on your own map pick.
True.
And so I'm wondering, if you're going to ban out the aggro tanks and really leave only a few more and then not pick them up, how do you then change so that you get an advantage somewhere? I'm looking at Fisheko has to pop off. If you're going to have Doe and Pule on a Fernando and Inara, there's only so much those champions can do right now.
No,
it's not
true.
The Scorch Fernando of old. He can't go in 3v1. It's not the Inara who just never existed where she's able to run people down like that. Maybe Wardersfield one meta one time. But you need Fish to pop off. You need Akate to pop off. And that's just, they're kind of pigeonholing themselves, I think, because Envy are getting Ash Barrack, which are great champs in the meta, great champs for Rubu and Tolki, and they're also getting Rock on a comfort pick and Random Noob on a Bomb King. I mean, that's his bread and butter. So maybe this will see a little bit more Bomb King. Maybe we'll see a little bit different ban phase. I think bans is really where I would expect some adjustments here on Jag.
Well, it's true. I mean, and that's just the way the bans have gone. When 4 of the other high priority, the other really important frontliners are always banned. Envy have been free to just pick up the other 2 that are remaining, especially with Virtus.Pro going Genos every single time. And that's sort of the point you just made, is that with the way the bans have been going and with Virtus.Pro prioritizing Genos so highly, Envy have been open to just take Ash Barrack twice in a row here, and that's paid off well. I mean, do you maybe change up the bans then? I mean, we'll see with Virtus.Pro on the clock here.
You could ban Eevee, you could ban Cassie, and you could ban Genos here. Different reasons for each one. Banning a Nara is also an option.
It is. They took it.
It's not. Oh no, it's Genos. Okay, I was gonna say, because you do save one of the aggro tanks. Anything that going in that slot, you open up a counter Atlas guaranteed.
Right.
Now Envy have to respond. What you would typically see is another DPS or non-prioritized maybe a prioritized DPS that's like secondary on the list. Like you could ban a Shaolin. You could also ban a Cassie if you don't want them to get it, and you can also ban Eevee, which is a little interesting. You might see Pip and Bomb King come through that. But they're going to give up an Atlas. So there it is. So the Tyra. So another secondary type DPS. And now, even though VP are going to get Khan,
they get 2.
Envy get Genos Atlas if they want it. Envy get Cassie Atlas if they want it. Dude, they get Atlas Eevee. I mean, that's bread and butter for Envy right now.
I mean, Envy, if they ban out Tyra, not only is she a good damage dealer, but just getting rid of damage amp, I think, in general in this game, having the Hunter marks off the table as well as the Astral marks for Genos. I'm interested to see which route Virtus.Pro go here. I mean, Khan has sort of taken the front seat to Atlas in a lot of these teams.
Yeah.
Envy, though, I mean, Envy can answer back with another either Khan or Atlas, and then they can go Ashigan, or they can go Barrack yet again, with Genos being off the table here, so it's going to be Khan. Would you imagine Envy go Atlas in this situation?
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%, and Atlas and Cassie, clearly. So, I mean, it's opening your eyes a little bit as to what Envy know is important. They know the Cassie is a big deal. And it's not just because of how good Cassie is. It's Rock. Rock is playing a bow character if they can help it. That's just been his history in Paladins. VP taking Inara here, it's not the worst, again.
They've loved her, though.
But you have an Eevee. I mean, you can Inara Damba. Maybe Eevee's not what you're prioritizing here, and you're hoping to kind of like basically open up a pit, maybe a surprise DPS pick at the end. But you're giving up, you're giving up an easy Barrack if you wanted it. They just love, I mean, Doe just loves him some Inara right now.
But this is an interesting position for Envy. I imagine we'll be able to see what healer they want here. But remember, game 1, Genos was banned, VP got Damba, and Envy had to go Furia.
Yeah.
And it didn't work out even remotely for them in that case. It looks like
harder map to do Furia on, though.
That's what Mr. Hayes is prioritizing here. We've sort of talked about how once, at least with the meta the way it is, if Genos is gone and Damba gets picked, it comes down to just preference. Of course, team comp plays into it as well. But Mr. Hayes has shown that he prefers the Furia in this case. He's going to go back to it. Likely a Damba here for Tulki as well, which I think is a great pickup for them. And then leaving open that final flex. Could be Drogos, could be a Pip. I don't know if Envy have really shown that they like Pip in the past. But Virtus.Pro have to show all their hand here.
Could be an Imani, too. I mean, I don't know how valuable they find Imani right now. It could be just because of the slow. I mean, it's just an interesting one, man. I'm curious to see what Virtus.Pro do. They're facing off against a really good squad. The Fury is a little easier to maneuver on Jaguar Falls. There's just less space, and it's a lot easier where you're knowing where you're going to stand, especially if you increase some of the radius with some of the cards for Solar Blessing itself. VP have a way of going about business today, and you cannot fault them for having a plan. These guys definitely have an idea of what they want to do. They're going to go for the Drogos. Admittedly, a little bit stronger on Jaguar Falls from what we've seen than the Eevee, who maybe excels in some of these more wide-open maps. This is a little bit more enclosed where a lot of the fighting is, so Drogos getting above it all is a pretty strong trait.
Could be another Bomb King here for Random Noob. He performs well on a map like Jaguar Falls. I'm sad that other teams haven't really gone the Pip route with a lot of these things, because Pip is so potent on a map like this especially. I mean, I guess you don't know. It could be picked up here. I'm sure any of these guys can play Pip to a decent level, but really having a game-changing Pip is reserved, I would say, for a couple teams in this league.
And I think a lot of times you like to pair it with damage amps, because then it gets out of control. It'd just be fine here, but that's the smartest pick for me. You have a great game on BK. Dave, why would you change it? You go back into a map where BK excels in those corridors. Come fight me, buddy. He says to anybody who wants to show up. The difficulty I have here is that the matchup against the Drogos, without picking the Leon, with prioritizing the Cassie early for Rock, the Wormjets Drogos could take advantage of them not really being able to have a lot of hit scan pressure. They're going to rely on the Fury and the Atlas to really get the job done.
Well, I think Fury is kind of where my eyes go. Feast or famine, as we like to say with her. Envy, they win 2 straight to go up here 2-1. Jaguar Falls, they'll look to make it 3. Virtus.Pro are going to look to tie. Let's send it down to Nick and Gore and get it underway.
Thank you, gentlemen. Gore, after looking at these two drafts, first of all, I love Jag Falls. Second, I like this resurgence of Drogos on Jaguar Falls. We've seen it a couple times now, once from Fish, now twice from Fish here. You think he's going to be able to be as successful?
I honestly think he's going to make it look really good. It's one of those things, like, you kind of forget how good Fish Echo is at Drogos until he pulls it out again because he plays so much EV, I guess, in the intermeaning time. But there's also the fact that I believe it was actually a random noob we got to talk to about it, where it's just like, man, you can play literally any talent that you want, whichever one fits your situation a little better overall. Fusillade is probably the least played as of right now after some of the nerfs that it got hit with last year. But, I mean, Combustible, Wormjet's both going to be good here. I think Wormjet's it's maybe a little more likely because I don't think anything feels better than just flying around as Drogos. Like, it's just so fun.
Objectively true statement there. Wormjet's feels the best to play. But you do have those 25% of the time situations, like especially on Ice Mines, I feel.
Yeah.
Frog Isle, frankly, if Drogos is pretty rare on Frog Isle, but a lot of times people go Combustible there as well. So those two maps, maybe Bright Marsh. Bright Marsh is kind of up in the air even. Early Salvo. Drogos has been so strong for so long. Fisheko's played so much of this character. Same with Random Noob, same with Payin. That's why you see him more often than not. If he was a brand new character as strong as he is right now, you probably wouldn't see him whatsoever. But because he's been such a staple, because these guys have spent so many hours with this character getting good at it, that's why when it can work, they'll make it work.
And it was actually the funny thing. I mean, looking at him, you have to question, like, what makes him unique? And really, it's just kind of his ult, right? Like, I mean, the blaster shots, the rocket launcher is something that feels good across pretty much any game that's had a rocket launcher. But if you don't know how to shoot that, like, if that's just not your MO, you just don't play it well. And that's why I am a terrible Drogon.
Oh, Rock's going to hit one of these shots. I know he can't miss that many. Comes around the corner, gets that big kill onto Fish. And now Team Envy can start to run away with this capture. 78% to 42. Shaolin comes in, bow drawn, but he's been slowed down. Control. Nice disengage here from Rock Monkey. He buys the space and the time for Team Envy to get the capture.
And it's no kills, nothing crazy. It's just, cool, I'm going to get you low, force you to shield and fight over here. I'm going to knock you back with a disengage, force you to fight over there. Like, you just can't come to the point because of Rock Monkey's presence. And you need trades like that to continually go like that. Like, Fish Echo has to hit 2 rockets with Rock Monkey not hitting a single shot every single time to keep that fight going. And that is just the showcase of why we always mention Leon against Drogos. We always mention, like, hit scan presence against Drogos. Because right now, Atlas is really the only one. I guess Furia can put her name in there, who are going to be consistently chunking him out of the air.
And you could see, in that mid-range-ish duel, as the Inflame comes here, we're going to hold that thought for a second. There it is, the windup and the follow-through. Rubu finds the shot, gets one onto the backline as well. With this Inflame, my goodness gracious, the Atlas damage is north of 1,000. He is hitting like a Mack truck coming down the highway. 130 left on the clock, but Envy don't look like they're going to need all of it.
I mean, they are set up perfectly. They are going to be running the Atlas, I think, for the first time today. We have the con on the other side, but Atlas is bringing a lot to this table that I think they are not ready for on the side of Virtus.Pro. Mainly it's this wall that is just separating them that is causing so much distress, so much distrust, I feel like, for them just because they can't get into the fight. They can't find the damage they need to from the base.
There it is. Rubu gets involved. Rubu is going to fall here, but he gets a ton of damage out. Hits a nice setback. 2 for 2 in favor of the defense just because of how close they are to this payload push. The reinforcements are arriving already for Virtus.Pro, and Envy are running a little bit scared. They will need this full duration of the clock. Knocking at death's door. This payload is 90-some change percentage of the way pushed through. But unfortunately, Envy are pushed back for the time being. Virtus.Pro have every ultimate in the book to defend with. Envy don't really have a lot to push in with.
But it was the perfect time for them to really go down because they had 50 seconds. They could regroup, try to figure out what they wanted to do with it. And if a couple more shots connect on that Drogos, that would definitely confirm it. And this is going to be able to set it. I mean, that's a 3-for-none trade right now for Envy.
I mean, they're not getting kills. They are not trading positively. They're not using ultimates. But that is a small silver lining. Team Envy just kind of dominating Virtus.Pro in good old-fashioned Paladins.
And honestly, I don't think that starts anywhere near the same way if Rubu doesn't hit the setback immediately onto Bear. Like, he just pulls him out into a, cool, you're not standing behind cover anymore. All we need is 2 more shots. You're gone. And that is kind of the big thing. I'm sorry, the con that he pulled out there.
Yeah, you're right.
As he was able to get that. And once they get the kill right there on the Pule Ule, It kind of reopened this. Actually, it was a little bit later, but it was pretty much the exact same kill, same scenario, same positioning, and they pushed into it, and it just changed everything. Like, the entire dynamic. I don't think anyone on Envy expected that kill to come out as quick as it did, and I don't think Virtus.Pro were ready for it.
1-4 start for Fishy Strogos, and quite the opposite for Rock Monkeys, Cassie, Rubu's, Atlas, and frankly, even Hayes, 2-0 here on the Furia. So good stuff from pretty much everyone on Team Envy. The onset of this game, Rock Monkeys, Cassie leading the damage charts. Trailed not very far behind. Atlas coming around the corner. Exile primed, ready to go. Looking for someone. Hits the Shield of Khan. Twice he'll hit the Shield of Khan. Backs off, nothing gained. Stunned out, Dragon Punch. It all connects. 2 in a row for Fasheko, but he'll lose his life for it.
He's absolutely okay with that trade, though. Ult and a rocket just to get the 2 kills that were necessary right there. Mr. Hayes might get the credit on the other side, but that has set them up for success. That's going to be a 2-for-1, effectively 3-for-1 full trade with comeback mechanic for Virtus.Pro. They should be able to hold on to this, but the zone's not too strong over there on the cliff side, so you might get another touch.
But a great wall there. Wall is, my goodness, probably one of the best abilities on Jaguar Falls. For that right there, you get a good wall on main, you're buying yourself 20% on the objective. Easy breezy. Shaolin, frankly, peeling for Khan in that situation. It's not normally the way it goes, but I think Pule Ule has a Kate to thank for that one.
And unfortunately for Hecate, he goes down. And this is, I want to say, the other start you could have to a Jag Falls map. And if Envy decide to push this as hard as they could, this might end up resulting in something either looking like Envy is the one that is pushing, or it might just kind of stall right here, not get the payload going any further. But 2 minutes, they have a little bit of time to play with. But you usually need an ult to open this door back up.
Well, speaking of ults, there's one of them. King Bomb explodes, gets a kill almost instantaneously. Dome Shield used as well. Envy popping everything they got, throwing the kitchen sink at Virtus.Pro. 5-for-0 trade. Respawn starting to come through for Virtus.Pro from the first 3 guys that died, and they might die again.
I mean, at this rate, Rock Monkey is in that zone, and I'm telling you, like, this is when it becomes a little scary. He is not missing shots, and he's finding flicks when he needs to, whenever that comes up, and that is when it gets a little more frightening. I mean, even if you're Jogos right now, you have to wonder if this gas is going to be able to hit you. You're pushed back in your base if you're Virtus.Pro. You have to get back to the payload in a minute and push, what, let's say 85 to 90% of the way in that minute, or risk going into overtime, and that's a big threat.
This is a big shutdown. Whoever gets this kill on the Hayes, well, I guess it doesn't really matter because everyone already had their ultimates, but a 17 streak shutdown from Mr. Hayes. His first death, I think, of the game on Furia. Has the end flame. Scout is ready. Nothing else is even really close. Exile has not been a factor straight up. He's missed 5 of the 6 shots, I think, have gone into Pule Ule's shield. And the one that connected on the Fasheko just didn't matter because the fight was basically already over. Rubu does manage to find that return kill with only 27 on the clock. I don't know if Virtus.Pro are going to have the time to get their feet under them again. Well, where the payload is, they'll probably have another shot at this.
They can at least get through. The problem is coming around. Like, this isn't even the toughest part of the Jag Falls glitch.
Certainly not.
You have to come up under that archway, up onto, like, kind of the rocky road that is the base for Envy, and then going around that last corner. That is the part where it's more difficult. And to do all of that in overtime, that is where a tall order is going to come through for Virtus.Pro. They have the staff to do it, to be able to fulfill this, but it's just not looking like it's going to be too possible.
If Fasheko could have stayed alive there, this would have been almost guaranteed for Virtus.Pro. 2-for-1 thus far. Inflame comes out, movement speed, damage. Rock Monkey's plugging away dutifully as best he can, but I don't know if he's got the damage. A lot of healing coming through. Very good positioning here from Vex, making sure his front line stays alive. Hecate gets Tolki. Rubu's back in. He's alive. Nice stasis field as well. Will continue to buy time for Envy.
And that's exactly what they need. The longer this is going, the shorter that overtime timer will actually tick. So as long as you can get rid of one Inara, it's going to be able to open it up. But here comes the King Bomb, not afraid to throw it out there, and that is going to be a good kill.
King Bomb has been reused kind of liberally here from Team Envy, and it's working for them. I think regardless of anyone's opinions on it, it has just been working for Team Envy the way they're playing their games right now. They did it on Stone Keep. Just get those guaranteed 1 kill, 2 kills, stop the offense, start the offense, whatever you need to do with it. That's what Envy are using King Bomb for, and it's working.
And, you know, I like that change. We had actually talked last map about how Virtus.Pro were hitting consistent through times and spaces, but one thing that Envy is doing is looking at this as, yes, a good King Bomb could potentially get you a triple kill, could get you a quadra kill on the point. But is it worth getting there and getting that triple kill or quadra kill if you give up a lead to do it? Like if you give up maybe control of the map to do it. Like right now you're up 3-1. Not having a King Bomb really isn't the worst thing. Not having the Dome Shield is probably going to hit you a lot more than random noob not feeling his ult.
Well, the story continues on here. Rock's still at the top of the charts, 7-1. I think I saw on the Cassie 7-4 for Rubu's Atlas, 1-7 for Doze, and Nara struggle here for he and Fasheko. What were power picks in the past for them, and even this set, when you're looking at Doze and Nara, have definitely struggled here on Jaguar Falls. Nice rewind there to keep Atlas alive and safe. He's floating above this fight. It's only a matter of time before somebody spots him out. Nice rockets from Fasheko. He gets away with murder.
And that's exactly who he needed to. Like any other person to kill right there, he still goes down. But the fact that he gets rid of the immediate threat to him, the person who can take him out of the air first, means that he can come back and do exactly what he wants to.
That rocket was about to be so good. Akate shoots him out of the air, out of the sky. Random Noob gets plucked. But my goodness, you best believe that would have connected had he not set it up for Fasheko. Nice stuff there. Virtus.Pro bounce back, and I don't see any other way around it. I mean, Fasheko he floated above Atlas Bomb King for too long, unpunished.
And that's the thing. I think right now Rubu is just the biggest threat to this Drogoz. I think Rubu has been causing him distress either with the wall, with either a rewind, just being able to give himself his health back, or just the fact that, I mean, look at that damage chunk. Like he hits 2-3 of those and you are done. He hits one of those and you just have to get out of the air. And that's assuming no one else shoots him. But Barrett, Cassie in the right scenario, the right positioning, should be able to hit some shots on that as well, which makes it a dangerous game for Fasheko to play. I think if you get rid of Rubu, Fasheko runs rampant, and this game is almost completely different than what we've seen.
Ooh, Akate knows how to thread a damn needle. Look at that shot on a Rock Monkey. Beautiful start to this offense from Virtus.Pro. This is a luxury that they have not had at all this game. This is finally with a minute 30 in the clock. They are moving into the base of Team Envy. This is not to end the game, though. This is just to equalize.
It's doing whatever they can. They're trying to lock him down, but this is it. This is the toughest corner to break overall because it just lays out right to the base. You can see Envy already setting up for this, trying to find a defense, but the payload's got so much momentum behind it. It's just rolling forward.
Big 1,000 damage arrow connects there. There's another one on a noob. He's going to go for it. He's going to get it. Akate locks it down, tries to get back to safety, but Toki will punish him for it. He's extremely low HP. There's a lot of ultimates available for Virtus.Pro. I think it's just a question of what they feel like they want to use.
I mean, they're going to be able to hold on to it right here. A kill onto Fasheko means a big kill to stall this out. You have 40 seconds, so Virtus.Pro theoretically should be able to come back in touch. If anyone gets staggered out, kind of sub 30 seconds, that's when you have to start questioning it. And the way they're positioning right now might make that a little timid.
Yeah.
But they're set. They're solid. Everyone has their ult. And it's going to be the question of how much do you want this?
Nobody really looks like they're too willing to spend. Maybe if we see something present itself in the way of an opportunity, Virtus.Pro might open this one up. But with Dosup's already as low as he is, he has to back off. Getting a lot of healing from Damba. That's going to keep him alive in this fight for the time being. We all watch with bated breath as we head into overtime to see what is going to happen.
There's going to be a Dragon Spit trying to go to the back line. Like, this is the issue. I mean, Fasheko can't show his head. A good salvo, but Rock is still alive. You can't get the damage to close it out, and you lose Pule in the process. That's a 4v5. That's just going to be difficult to run.
That is tough to run, losing a front line early. Fishy so poked out, run down in the back line. Huge headshot and the rewind to get back in the fight. Rubu with a clean exchange onto Fasheko, a parting gift for Virtus.Pro. The game doesn't end. No points are awarded. 2-3 is still the scoreline. Half comeback mechanic for VP as we head into the next round.
And this is going to open up a couple of doors. They can stand on the point slightly less than Envy to get the exact same amount of charge. And I think that's where we're going to start seeing this play effect. I mean, if you get kills like this, then you're looking at another Virtus.Pro push. You're looking at them potentially trying to convert for the win on the map. But if you see Envy, I mean, again, all 5 ults are available. As long as they don't make the same mistake of standing literally right under a Drogoz and letting him free fire for a little bit, I think we're in for a different pace of fight.
Well, let's take one last look at the items here before we get into the fray. pretty much everything that was bought initially has been started off. Fishy rushing down damage reduction in this game. He wants to be able to stay up in the skies as long as possible. I don't blame him. I think it's pretty interesting the Nimble 3 as well for Vex.
I mean, just
Gotta
trying
go
to
fast.
keep himself alive and running around. It's going to be an interesting one. Especially with Slither. Like, that's not a typical pickup, but you want another utility item, you're going to be able to do it. A nice wall stops that King Bomb from being effective, and unfortunately that Grumpy Bomb doesn't thread the needle, and he kind of gets blown back. But it's still 54%. Envy have the point.
A lot of ultimates for Virtus.Pro. Something's got to happen here. Somebody's got to pop off. Swerving his way into this team fight, looking for Tolkien. He gets it, drops the Dome Shield, loses his life for it, but I have to say I feel like that is worth it. The rest of these trades, I don't know if these are worth it. Exiled out, no follow-up there. Well done from Envy. They orchestrate the rest of that fight beautifully, and they are going to take Jaguar Falls.
That last moment was Hecate versus the world, and, well, Hecate didn't have enough arrows for the world. Everybody on Envy was prepared for him. And that just comes down to, I mean, what you had said. Those trades just did not really go in favor. Like, Fisheko going in, that one was solid.
Yeah.
But everything else was kind of like, well, you lost a fight over here and over here. Like, you're fighting 3 fronts, and you lost 2 of them.
Yeah, I didn't really see what happened the rest of that fight. It all happened so fast. Dragon Punch was good because it killed Tolkien and dropped a Dome Shield. So that's why the 1-for-1 there is cool in my opinion, but the rest, I don't know what went so wrong so quickly with the rest of that fight.
I mean, all I remember is I see Fisheko get the kill, he dies, and then I looked up and I was like, oh, there's 3 members of Virtus.Pro dead. Like, everyone has disappeared. You have that Inara, like, Seismic Crash comes through, but it just... At that point, there's no one there. You get exiled.
Yeah.
Hecate wasn't ready for the follow-up. So, like, everybody on Virtus.Pro, like, there just wasn't enough to be able to continue that fight.
To be honest, it never really felt like Virtus.Pro were in control of Jaguar Falls, so Envy is going to grab yet another victory and move up 3-1. Let's get it back to the desk. Hear their thoughts.
Appreciate it, fellas. Another, I would say, convincing victory here for Envy. 3-1 up now in the set after losing, again, convincingly in map number 1. They've won 3 straight now up to this point, Evan.
Yeah.
What'd you see from Envy in that last one?
Envy are doing all the right things. They're playing the meta the way we would have expected to be played. The team that's doing the different things here is the Virtus.Pro. You know, again, the heavy prioritization of Inara Damba. It's just not something we've seen be the turning point here. They're deprioritizing the matchups between, I think, Fish and Random Noob and characters. They're also deprioritizing Hecate and Rock Monkey when they overlap in champion pools almost entirely. I think that this is really more about Virtus.Pro trying something new that's not quite having the effectiveness that I'm sure they would have hoped it did, or at least it did in Game 1.
Yeah, and Random Noob yet again getting onto the Bomb King. Some good plays there from him in this one. Very similar performance, I would say, to what we saw on Stone Keep, the Stone Keep victory, and actually very similar from Rock Monkey as well. And that Random Noob was able to be there. He was able to find some damage, find some kills, really just help his team move forward. But it was, in this case, I think Rock Monkey and Rubu were the ones who kind of stole the show for me on the side of Envy. The Cassie popped off, the Atlas looked great, and then Random Noob was in there facilitating. One thing that you pointed out that I thought was pretty interesting, and I noticed as well, was Mr. Hayes was going for some interesting, beams on the Drogos up
His
in the
Pyre
air.
Strikes were being used the way that they initially are, and if you're not running Sword of Blessing. I believe he was running the Cherish, and so when he's giving extra healing based on that right mouse button and giving that basic, faster heal but less efficient, he's able to use the Pyre Strike for its intended purpose, which is for a stun, for damage, and he applied an extra bit of pressure onto the Drogos, and knowing that the projectiles were not going to do it quite all the way. It was a team effort, and that's a good sign of Envy really being in the rhythm.
I mean, if nothing else, forces maybe a little bit of extra movement from Fisheko. Envy looking very convincing here in Jaguar Falls. Of course, one of the current updates, or the current update, I should say, in Paladins is the Steel Forged update. You get the new Battle Pass, lots of new skins, lots of fun stuff to look into. We've already seen the new map, Evan. What are some skins that you kind of look towards in this update? Anything that jumps out at you?
We've seen that Barrack skin,
Yeah,
which
the Barrack skin is awesome.
Beautiful, and I think we have a video prepped for him to check those out.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a peek at what Steelforged has to offer.
Amani arrives to claim your kingdom, your home. There is no mercy in her eyes.
Androxus uses Nether Step, avoiding the Mad Warder.
Knights of old, give me strength.
While Damba conjures a gourd, providing salvation for his party.
Ready your weapons, soldiers! Ready your graves.
Barrack places his turret to defend his allies.
A good fight, a good fight. I what another!
Well played. Amani transforms into a dragon and burns the city.
Shall we play with flames first today? Or perhaps frost?
Critical hit.
What? My turrets took down the last dragon, no problem.
Should have rolled my naval to play.
It's just a lot of character for Amani.
I don't know, I like the ending.
It's a great video and lots of great skins. The intent looks as
the intent look, dude. People, I'm not gonna say I love game community. I love board games.
Yeah.
D&D I never gotten into, but that's a funny thing for people who don't even understand D&D at all to look at everybody like taking it so seriously. But that's D&D. I mean, that's also gaming. People look at gaming and they're like, "How are you taking this video game so seriously?" So I get back in
I would
school and job.
Honestly, I would probably pay to watch that group of people play Dungeons
with that intensity.
With that.
Androxus uses Nether Step to escape.
Oh, natural 1. No.
Come on, Daddy needs a 7.
6. That's normally how it goes.
No.
Jumping back into this one though, I mean, lots of fun stuff to look forward to in this update.
Man.
Lots of really good skins though. I mean, you mentioned the Barrack one. I think Damba has one of my favorite skins in this update. Lots of, I don't know, just sort of the vibe of it all. It's kind of like that mystic. I think Dungeons and Dragons is a really good way to kind of characterize the route. Although Steelforged might make you think of like knight's armor. Just, it's like, what are you talking about? I do like the Damba skin. Lots of fun stuff to look forward to, of course, in Steelforged. Do you think? And I mean, I'm asking you to go on a limb here because nobody can predict this. Do you think Envy just sealed the deal here? Are they playing with too much momentum? Are they playing too well right now? I mean, we also kind of reference how the draft. It's not often that the draft changes everything, but I'd say VP are drafting kind of interestingly.
Dave, my assessment early on is pretty much how I have it here. I don't see VP making adjustments mid-set. It's a team that's, a Navi and IP, right, who have done it, who have been near that world champion, guys who have done it all, been everywhere. VP has a great collective of guys, but guys who have kind of just fallen short. I mean, every single person on that team has almost been like a semi-finalist at like Worlds or right around there. I mean, you got to give it to, Doe and being able to win on that international at DreamHack. But everyone else, Fishy and the Fnatic squad, just almost there. You look at Puleole and Hakate, semifinals, Game 7, can't quite make it. I think that when you look at what really determines who wins a best of 7, it's mid-set adapting. So far, they've gone to the same thing that's not worked. And for me, it's almost frustrating to see it happen because these two teams deserve to have even blows. They deserve to go into the same game and be like, I'm going to throw down at you. You're going to throw down at me. We're going to see who comes out of this heavy. But I think that Envy just have started every game with just better drafts for the most part, excluding that first game where the new map really helped Inara to shine. I mean, it was a dominating performance. Ever since then, I think they've kind of been on the back foot from the Fernando Stonekeep game and even this one on Jack Falls.
And don't forget, though, that the Envy Navi set was 3-1 in favor of Envy, and then Navi found 3 straight to close out the day to take the win.
True.
So, and that's not necessarily a slight against Envy, but at the end of the day, you're taking this one map at a time if you're Virtus.Pro. You just need to win this one. You just need to win the next one. I mean, if you take it out of the context of needing to win 3 straight,
right.
Sure, we can beat Envy on one map. You look at the next one. Sure, we can beat them on another. And that's the way you have to look at it. Of course, Timber Mill's going to be the map that they need to start off their final sweep on. Interesting pick here. Maybe bodes to some snipers?
Possibly.
EV's had a big priority here as well.
I think first pick hasn't been a strong draft position for VP. I feel like Envy, if they just see a DPS ban, Envy will just ban a DPS and they'll get, Khan, or they'll get Torvald, blah, blah, blah. I think it's safer to try to go for a Khan than it is to try to play around a Torvald. I think that's too many variables on a map like this. VP going to ban it. I think Envy can ban Khan here. They'll know that maybe the Genos is something that they'll be able to get, but this set has been so dominant around. If that's the case, well, who gets EV? Who ends up really controlling the aggressive front lines in Ashe, and who gets really Barrack too? I mean, that's a big one. And the Cassie, which is typically all gone the way of Envy. So Virtus.Pro here with a first pick, taking the Khan. Genos is banned. you know, Ash Barrack, why would you go against it unless you really feel Timber Mill is something that needs the Strix or the Kinessa prioritization? They're just going to go for the Eevee and give random noob his pick.
And I think that's, like, I sort of mentioned how Timber Mill is a strong map for an Eevee, so I'm not surprised to see Envy going that route. Just right off the bat, make sure random noob is on something that he's comfortable with. He's had good performances on Eevee up to this point today, and I imagine, as we see another Hecate dab, never down, always smiling.
Because he knew Strix was picked. He said, okay, I got to dab because I knew Strix was picked.
So we do get to see a sniper, and then yet more
what
early.
The heck?
I mean, in your eyes, do you go Barrack there if you're Virtus.Pro? I mean, in an ideal world, they obviously are prioritizing.
In my world,
right.
Why are you prioritizing that tank when Barrack is available? Because you can pick Inara Barrack. They're pretty good. They're both going to do essentially the same job. We have seen too much evidence to say that, if anything, Barrack's a better tank than Inara right now.
Yeah.
However, I just don't understand when they're picking it. You could take Inara. I don't mind that. But
yeah,
Cassie's on the board.
Yeah.
Or, you know, if you're going to say, or something, you know, what I'm seeing is that if you want Inara, you can get Damba here, right? Where now you're giving up Damba, knowing that now you're going to go to a Furia. If you want Inara, get Damba here, get Inara later, because that is not the priority. You have 2-point tanks. Everyone only needs one more tank. That's what's throwing me here, and I don't understand. I'd love to hear from VP what their thought process is, because I don't get why so early. Not that they're taking it, just so early when other things are prioritized.
I mean, Envy, almost in a weird way, have been the beneficiaries of being the second drafters in a lot of these games because of getting the 2 picks right off the bat. Cassie going over to Virtus.Pro in this case,
I will bring an end
rounding
to
out
the
with a Furia this time. Of course, Damba was picked up by Envy, and that's going to open up the Kinessa, so it's looking like we'll get to see a little sniper battle. But on one end, you have random noob on an Eevee, who's going to be the one to try to deal with some of the range on the opposite side. And then you have Cassie, who's going to be, of course, the Strix as well. The snipers have their own torch to hold in that race. But I think Envy have a little bit more mobility in this case.
They certainly do. And, yeah, so I think that's kind of the thing. VP's thought process is what I want to insight into. I don't understand it yet. It doesn't mean that it's wrong.
No.
I just, from what we've seen.
They're just privy to something.
Yeah, maybe they're privy to an idea that's worked. You know, obviously they've put in the scrim times. I'm not going to say that they haven't found out that this is a great draft for them. But the results are showing that this isn't working this way, and that's all we're seeing. And the Eevee seems to be a big turnkey. The Ashe all the time on Rubu is great that they're first picking it as they should. Barrack continues to be great for Tolkien, picking up big kills, by the way.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And I think Damba probably would have paired better with the Inara, especially if you're going to run something like Cherish on Timber Mill, which you very well can. We'll see if he goes Solar Blessing. She did get the range buff on the right click, the Kindle Soul. So we'll wait to see. I think you can have Damba there if you con Damba Strix, then you save Inara for the Furia slot. And we'll see if that would have made a difference. It might not have, though.
I am excited to see Rock Monkey on the Kinessa this game. It's not something that you always get to see very, very often, so it's going to be fun to see how he performs here. Orange, blue, what are you thinking?
You know, because of MB being on a roll, I think it's going to be very hard to stop them. I think Timber Mill is such a tough map to get momentum on. It's so hard to, if you even cap, push. Yeah. So it seems like it might be 1-1s, and that's always come down to a dice roll, man. I don't know. Was any of these characters? The Barrack was doing the dice roll in the Dungeons & Dragons, so I'm giving it to Envy. I think they'll close out here.
Well, Envy are looking to roll a natural 20 on this one. Virtus.Pro, they need a nat 20 of their own. Game 5's about to get underway, but to go there, let's send it down to the casters.
Couple of fratty natty 20s rolled on the desk, bro. That's good stuff.
Imagine being able to get like 2 nat 20s in a row.
Yeah.
It's the stuff of legend.
That's what? 2.5% chance of getting that or something like that?
That's not high. But you know what?
You ever played D&D?
I started once, and it fell off after like 2 weeks.
I feel like that's the thing that happens to
ground
D&D. You have to like really. It's like any like big group activity though. Like getting a group of people,
a group together, consistently,
20-something gamers to commit to something outside of gaming multiple times over the course of like a month. Man,
it's hard to do.
That is very tough to do. Sniper battle. It's gonna be super fun to watch. Rock Monkey versus Hecate. Scope v Scope. Rock Monkey feeling it out, trying to get an early lead. Dink is going the first shot from Hecate. down the way. 1 blood traded either way. Puleuli finds Rubu, Toki finds Fisheko. And again, it's that creeping 48% capture for Virtus.Pro that we keep talking about with this Inara. That's why they keep picking her. That's why they keep leveraging it.
Now, this is probably the sniper battle that, in my mind, is one of the best ones that you're probably ever going to be able to see. I want to know, though, if the supports are intentionally body blocking some of these shots. Like, they're what's keeping this kind of going longer. That is the headshot you needed, though. Rock Monkey gets that one kill. And even though Virtus.Pro are up on the point, that usually is going to be the signifier that just shifts Timbermill.
Round 1, Rock Monkey wins.
Round 2.
Cue the Mortal Kombat music. These guys are going to be going all game, but whoever wins that fight gets to kind of rotate around and continue to have an impact. Rock Monkey's kind of in an awkward spot. Knessa definitely more of a free-flowing character when it comes to rotating around. Random Noob gets shut down by the Strix. Overpowers good for another on the Rock Monkey. And just like that, VP have flipped this one back on its head. They will take the first objective of the game.
You know, I forgot about contingency plan. If Hekate goes down, well, we got Fisheko on Cassie. Like, we don't have to worry too much about losing range or any sort of advantage. The control Virtus.Pro have is Inara living forever and then 2 high-dealing damage dealers. Although I will say, shout-outs to Puleuli. 3-0-3 right now. Like, that overpowered was really solid for it, but just a lot of control on the map. And I'm sure, as you look at the damage charts, throwing his name in the list with the Cassie, with the Strix, to make sure that they're pretty much burning down Random Noob every step of the way.
Sheesh, and Big Game is making quick work of Ashe as well. Ice Storm comes out on the low ground. Random Noob forced into Ice Block. He's not going to get the kill for that. Inflame will try and supplement what Virtus.Pro are looking to do here, but the front line from Team Envy with a little spicy Rock Monkey topping here is going to be able to win this fight for them. Nice shots from Rock. He takes down Hekate as he tries to exit. Tolki gets the tag on the Vex, and it's the full sweep every day of the week for Envy.
I don't think I've ever seen a team win a fight pretty hard without an Inflame and then almost immediately lose a fight with the Inflame. Like, that was kind of backwards.
That was kind of weird.
But hey, whenever you use it, you got it. You have a minute to charge that back up, and Fury can charge it pretty quickly. But I mean, this is solid, and again, it's coming kind of down from the front lines. You have a little bit more, I think, from Rock Monkey, and I think these snipers are going to be very big on the point fight, but they're not known for the defenses on this map. Like, they're known really for this area.
Yeah, it's like that point fight, you're right. This mid area is weird for the snipers. They don't have the best places to stand. Once it gets towards the end, though, when you see one of the snipers will sort of hole up behind the saw blade, and the other can take that initial roost. So say Knessa falls back to the saw blade, that's when Hekate can sort of move into Knessa's old roost, and you will start to see another kind of sniper fight sort of brew. But in this middle sort of stage where the majority of this round has stalled out, it's kind of awkward to be a sniper.
I mean, just look how zoomed in you are, and that's just roof to roof right there.
Look at these lines. They're all like little tiny, like couple
Small
pixel
windows,
wide ways to shoot people. There's not like a ton of great ways. Obviously, again, remember we talked about Rock Monkey. He's on Knessa. He has the ability to move around the map so much better than Strix. So he's going to be kind of moving around and staying involved, and that's where Strix, I feel, falls off a little bit.
And that's what we've seen already. I mean, when he got that initial pick on the Strix, he immediately teleports over to a different roof to get a different angle. And the same thing has been going on during the defense, where it's
Nice
just like,
shot.
cool, if I'm going to be right here, I'm right here, but if I need to retreat or I need to get aggressive, I can do so. Shot for shot right there between the snipers. But
it's so funny, dude. He may as well not even be stealth. Rock, like, he just knows where he's going to be anyway the whole time. You can see they're making the rotations based on where the other sniper is going to be, and that's almost like the fight within the fight. Overtime is still burning here. Envy do have a man on the objective, but so do Virtus.Pro.
well, he's going for the peak. So far, it's been just enough health. Like, that was the first fight they've gone into where both of them weren't full health and a single shot wasn't going to kill either side. And that's where, you know, we've seen a lot of compositions lately that have paired the Knessa with a Genos, and those can one-shot you. But here, you always have that second ability, right? Just being the first one to get hit. As long as you trade that first shot, which they have 3-4 times in a row right there, you don't have to worry about it. It's that second shot that is really going to cause, I think, the big distress. But I will say the stealth mechanic I had mentioned earlier, probably going to be playing a little bit of an effect here as well. Hekate, as long as he's stealth, he's not going to get popped out of it by getting shot by Rock Monkey. He's just going to have to timer. I don't think he can cancel. I guess when he fires, it does take him out of it. So either way, he's going to have maybe that small advantage, but not enough in damage.
On the initial shot, yeah, it helps him like in these situations. You know, Rock is sort of guessing where he's at. There's not a whole lot of pixels where they can be and still be exposed and finding a shot. But whoever gets these even HP advantages can then kind of move up, poke out some of these front lines, find somebody else to shoot. And you hit the nail on the head every single time. It's Akate and Rock just trading out shot for shot.
And it almost comes down to whether or not X gets a headshot versus Y, or for Rock Monkey in this case, a steady aim shot that can come through, or if the support's right there. I mean, right now, Envy, though, they're winning the point fight not because of the snipers. I mean, the snipers are distracted. No one's really been able to get any pressure onto the front lines until just then Hecate gets some shots. But it was a dome shield very early on that just opened up the space for Tolki.
There it is. Nice stun onto Tolki. Big game damage is applied as well for Sheko. Easy cleanup for him and the boys. Hecate gets the killing blow. Doe actually gets the killing blow onto Random Noob's Eevee as well. 87% for Team Envy on the objective. But Virtus.Pro have map control, they have point control, and they are quickly closing this lead.
Doing whatever they can to hold on. Rubu's going to be able to come back into the fight. The question is whether or not it's going to be enough alone. The stun connected, but Sheko just kind of did the glance and didn't care. Now it's 87-87. They're going to be back on the objective. The snipers are looking towards the front line. Rock Monkey, you need that kill.
He doesn't get it either. So
this
close.
Is a big one.
Soaring in, finds the big shot. Random Noob comes up in the clutch when they need it most. 99% for Virtus.Pro, but Envy have a man there, and they're getting kills. Envy are going to claw this one back.
I mean, they're coming in. Overtime's going down. That's 3 kills. That's 4 kills. And Cassie, well, she's way back there in the base. That's 5 full kills, technically, for Envy as they come back in. And now I have to levy the all-important question. Would Hecate or Rock Monkey be the John Wick of Paladins?
Good question.
Because that's all I started thinking about how they were playing. I was like, these guys, they're just hitting headshots constantly. They're looking good. If you put them in that kind of scenario, I wonder who could run the gauntlet through more players just because of their aim.
They are some nuts, I will say. These guys are pretty good at clicking on heads. 2 minutes on the clock to continue to do what they do. A lot of fighting going on for the high ground here. This is a critical spot. You want to roost your sniper up here, and likewise, if you're defending, you want to make sure that you route that enemy sniper out from a comfortable position. Tolki gets the first kill here. Virtus.Pro really struggled at that midway point on their offense, but Team Envy looked to blow right through it.
I feel like there's only a few teams that we have that could have the awkward moment of Eevee goes in and Ashe kills someone before Eevee can get there with her blink. And it's honestly Envy, one of the few that can make it work. As of right now, though, they're riding the momentum. They've won 3 maps in a row. They got that point, and this payload is just running its way towards its conversion point.
Very, very true. Not much left in the tank here. This won't be the game end, even if they do get it through. Nice job. Into the ice block behind the barricade as well. Team Envy, a quick surgeon-like precision offense, gets them a 3-1 lead. And they are now on set point. They could close it all with a capture here.
So Envy came into today, I think 1 loss higher than Virtus.Pro and 1 map higher than Virtus.Pro. They're that close in the standings right now, but this is not only a show of force, but this is just big for them as a whole. Envy has been in this really weird, rocky path, kind of just going down into a pit and then clawing back out of it. Now it feels like they are, again, on the upswing. And when they're playing like this, this is the kind of team that comes through and was able to go undefeated for that last one. This is the kind of team that comes through and is the scariest one you would see on the world stage, right? This is what they've come back to.
Well, at the moment, Rubu's the only one negative on Team Envy, but I feel his rotations have had the most impact on this Timbermill game. It was last round, he makes these risky dives onto the enemy high ground and just forces out the support and the sniper. He doesn't want them to be comfortable. Pule, risky overpower. Does manage to grab the kill on the Rock Monkey, but he's going to die for it. 29% in climbing here. More kills in the backline for Envy. Fishy locked in by an Ice Storm. Vex is able to answer back on a Rubu, but it is all map control all the time for Team Envy. Vex with another one. Nice stuff from the support from Virtus.Pro just to give them a hope.
Well, Doe's going to be able to come back in, but it's 63-42, which would make a bigger difference if there weren't a comeback mechanic here for Virtus.Pro. They should be able to match and pass that, no problem. And now they're going to have to fight back into this. I mean, 71%, they don't have a
zooming.
dome shield. They don't really have the way to zone this out.
They do not indeed. Here comes the fear. Dosups immunes it. Beautiful job here on the Inara on the point. He's fighting tooth and nail, trying to get this capture rolling. Bisheko gets the first kill of the engagement to Envy. Rubu answers it right on back to the support. No more healing for VP.
Well, now they're trying to get the shots. Bowling ball resets. Shields are good. Rock Monkey making sure his name is heard. Tolkien stays alive through all of that. Had the dome shield. Wasn't able to get it off, but it's still 3 clean kills there for Envy.
Fishy trying to do it all, but he simply cannot. 99%, and Team Envy shut it all down. The set will go the way of the reigning world champions as they move themselves even higher in the standings. Rubu, pretty damn happy about that. That's a 4-1. I don't think many people expected that coming into today.
I mean, when you go back to kind of what Evan was saying on the desk going into this was Timber Mill is kind of a slow down overall map. Like it's I'm going to try to bring your momentum back towards us. You've won 3 maps in a row. We need something. But it's not a map that you really gain momentum on. And you can kind of feel that. They get the first point. They don't get the push. They don't get the second point. They don't get a defense. And like it kind of felt like it's stacked on top of Virtus.Pro there.
Maybe running out of maps, out of choices.
Yeah.
Nobody's really quite made Timber Mill their ace in the hole. You know what I mean?
Not yet.
I think that was Envy really kind of knowing still what to do overall on Timber Mill. We're going to get it back to the desk and hear their closing thoughts on Envy versus VP.
Set number 1 ends up being a 4-1 here. Envy 4 straight wins, to wrap the day. Virtus.Pro came out hot, but Envy, they looked hotter down the stretch. They end up taking the win. Timber Mill looked like it could have been contentious, but I think at that point you were pretty spot on. Envy were just playing with momentum. Their drafts look good, and they take the win today.
Yeah, and I think, you look at that last point, running out of sustain, running out of the ability to heal, running out of the flexibility. They needed somebody to add some more, I think, not only damage, but really disruption to that fight with Tolkien and Dosips. And I think a Damba there would have been a really good option, and that was unfortunately on the side of Envy. Envy, to their credit, did a great job of getting what they wanted for their team.
Yeah.
That was, I think, the best job that they did. And from top down, through coach, through player, through just understanding what they did right and wrong over these last weeks. Tolkien on Barrack, Random Noob on Eevee, Mr. Hayes on Moldamba, Rock Monkey on Kinessa, Rubu on Ashe. There's not a better looking combo that you could probably player to champion.
Right.
They could all do play like a pros on each one of those champions. That's how you know that's a great draft. Virtus.Pro aren't going to change. I knew this was going to happen. We saw Nara every game, but guys, you gotta. It's a spry man's game now. You gotta get your cons, your atlases. You gotta figure out a way to play these other guys. Nara, I love her, but she's not that prioritized in this meta.
We got to see Rock Monkey on the Kinessa. He made it look good. One thing I noticed, I mean, and this is probably the point you were trying to make anyway, but you could probably copy and paste the Damba, the Ashe, and the Barrack in 4 of their wins, and then, Eevee maybe change out for Bomb King, Rock Monkey maybe flexes onto something else, but those 3 were their tried and true throughout this entire set, and that's what you were saying. Virtus.Pro just let them have it.
Yeah.
And I think that this is...
It's got to be a fight, Dave.
Right, it's got to be a fight. You got to fight in the drafts. The fight doesn't begin once you load in. The fight begins on the draft.
Yeah.
This is an important win, though, I think, for Envy. I mean, of course, they have
It
NIP tomorrow, so it's a tough week. I mean, Virtus.Pro followed by NIP is a tough week. So Envy, with a convincing win here today, 4-1. This is an important game for them.
Yeah, I think we'll still see, like, if you're looking at this is a great warm-up for Envy. I think if you're looking at Virtus.Pro, a wake-up. That's how I would look at this. Warm up and a wake up. That's how I would look at for these 2 teams.
Tomorrow.
And Renegades tomorrow for Virtus.Pro should be something that could get them back on track. I think that they'll just look at the VOD. They'll say, oh, here's where we made some of these mistakes. Maybe we didn't put ourselves in great positions. Maybe we could have prioritized this differently. It's small things. So if you're going back at it, you say, man, small things separated us in a big match. Get those small things down. I think they feel good heading into the midseason, Dave. It's tough to see, but I think that they did their best today with what they knew.
No, and remember, they're coming off, I guess it must have been, a two-week break here for Virtus.Pro as well.
You got to let the guys warm up a little bit.
You got to warm up. You got to get back in. Scrimming is one thing, but actually getting in here and playing their games is a totally different thing. Of course, as we said, a bounce-back chance for them tomorrow against Renegades. Envy having a tougher game tomorrow against NIP. I would imagine if we're predicting way too early here before seeing how the teams go, maybe a split week for both of these guys. Were there any standout performances from you for Envy today? Did Rock Monkey and anyone stand out?
I thought they really have an identity now. Yeah. You know, we kind of lost it for a little bit, and I think we saw Envy as well, prioritizing things differently. But, you know, the flexibility that I think Tolkien's shift on really feeling comfortable playing, whether it is the Barrack if he can get it, or it's the Khan as well with the Ashe, or it's the Atlas Khan, or it's the Atlas Ashe, whatever it is. I've seen tremendous impact from him in that role. And I think that's kind of what makes it. It's like the way Bonker and Diggy, you know, Rubu and Tolkien, when they're on, it's almost just like, oh my God, I'm thinking of Hecate versus Rock. I got to handle that duel, but Tolkien gets a 600 damage shot on me, like, and that's how I die. Like, come on, man. But that's how good they are. They're always looking to do their job and a little more, and that's the stuff that makes a great team.
If it's not one guy, it's going to be the other, and that's sort of how Envy operates. Of course, looking at the standings that we just saw, they solidify themselves in third place now. Nobody tied up with them on wins or map differential, just a good old 6 in the win column here for them. And it's an important win for confidence and just for standing-wise as well, moving into the MSI. Yeah. Of course, you want to be the highest seed as possible. Envy do grab the win here today, though, in our first set of the day. Let's send it down to an interview and see how the winners are feeling.
Gentlemen, congratulations on the win, first off.
Thank you.
2 lines of questioning today, a couple in regards to the set, and I want to ask some in regards to how you guys are feeling about some of the balance changes for some of these champions. Like you mentioned on Leon, how's she feeling to you?
She was kind of falling off before the changes, just because the game is constantly shifting.
Moves, yeah.
Like you don't even have to patch it, and it'll be completely different meta in a month. So she was falling off, and then I thought it'd be fun to pick Leon. She was feeling okay.
I thought it'd be fun.
And I gave up the Cassie.
Envy draft strats revealed here. I thought it would be fun.
I thought it would be fun, but it didn't work out. It wasn't that fun.
Yeah, it wasn't that fun to lose.
It wasn't that fun. No. We gave him Cassie because I wanted Leon. But
losing's tough, but you guys only did it once today, and I think you had a big turnaround, obviously, later on in the set. What was that moment? You guys changed your draft strategies, like you mentioned, you know, started with the Leon, but kind of left it alone as the set went on, or what was it?
I actually think it was like Rock just hyping us up. He doesn't com much usually, but then like on Ascension, he was just. It almost sounded like a meme com a little bit, but it was good.
Out of character. They didn't even.
But it helped me a lot because I was starting off so slow at the start of the set.
Yeah. All I did was die, so I'm like, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna do something good, and then I just started yelling everything.
And it got the energy for the whole team.
And then we just started.
Then it went good there.
And it just carried through. I mean, last map, I want to know who is responsible to be able to come in. We got the sniper battle, I think, that I've wanted to see for a long time, which was Rock, you going up against Hecate. And I mean, just going into that, like, I want to know, how does that one feel like when you know it's going to come down to like who gets that first shot, who gets that first hit? Like, what's the moment feel like in that moment, in that area?
It's a weird balance between, do you want to fight him, do you want to ignore him, you hit him, he's gonna hide, you hit him and you know he's gonna hide, so you do something else, or you miss and you think he's gonna double peek you. It's like a lot of mind games, and I don't really mind getting hit. It's just he had me like really poked out, and I was starting to feel it on that last mid, because he just kept finding these crazy angles, but most of the game felt pretty safe.
Last question for me, what thoughts on Bazaar? I mean, that was awesome getting to see that in game number 1.
I actually like that map a lot. It's very interesting. Just it's completely different, like how the push works with the gates and stuff like that. And that's what I like out of maps, right? Is that they're unique and they change up the game. And I think Bazaar does that really well.
Cool. Guys, thanks so much. Congrats on the win. We're going to throw it to a quick commercial break, guys. But when we return, NIP versus Renegades. Brought to you by Evil Mojo, Hi-Res Studios, INAP, Respawn, SteelSeries, Alienware, and Skillshot.